Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cameron and I writing this movie. I am so tired. I just got off work a little bit ago. I'm still in my car. But I just wanted to welcome you to this next episode, and let you know that we are really getting into the thick of it. We're getting into the heavy stuff here, and it is just so much fun. It is fun while it is absolutely horrific. We're writing about patriarchy and misogyny and all of those horrible things. So it's a lot, but we're doing it because it needs to be done, and we're really grateful for any help you want to give us in making this movie. And it sucks asking for money. I don't like doing it, but it's gonna take some to make this movie. Not much, relatively speaking. But if you are really interested in what we're doing here, and you want to be a part of it, and you really care about this journey that we're embarking on, I can't talk. Then yeah, my God, I'm losing it.
Okay, now let's do one together, and then maybe that tells me how much of a sync
delay or whatever.
Different delay? Yeah, okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. That's informative.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Come here, Mia. Mia is very concerned about all the clapping. Come here, Mia. Come here.
Mia, we're just applauding your good girl behavior.
Yes.
Boy, sweetie.
She says, please keep the clapping.
It's stressing her out. Yeah. You got the storms, you got thunder, now you got thunderous applause.
Oh, it's
That's
okay,
too much.
Mia. It's okay.
It's like fireworks.
Okay. Lay down.
Okay.
Lay down. It's okay. I have all the blankets. Lay down. Okay, no, right here. Oh. Sorry. Okay. There we go.
So, it's been about a month since we did our last little record. I've changed up the script. Not super significantly, but good enough. But we're not talking about that yet. We'll get to all the nitty-gritty on the next one. Right now, we'll just... I'm stuck at a little place.
Okay.
And also, I want to talk some character stuff. And since you're an actor, you know about character stuff.
Yes.
And also, since we last spoke, a study came out that says, what was it? 34,000 rape victims have gotten pregnant, and I'm sure that number
26,000 of them are from Texas.
No, that's what it was. It was 26,000 from Texas, which is 43% of all of the...
All of them from all the states.
All of them.
Yeah.
From all the states that have... Anyway. So that's great.
Yeah,
and it keeps
which
getting...
is I wish I would have really, actually believed that they... all of the things that have happened, I feel not like it would have been any different had I have responded any differently, but
sure.
I don't know. It's just crazy. Sorry. It's so surreal that it's sometimes when I think about everything that's happening, because it's just I just didn't think. I mean, it's I'd heard for so long, that's what they really want to do is take abortion away. I was like, oh, that won't ever happen. That they're not actually going to do that. They can't.
Right.
They can't do that. That's been...
There's systems that'll stop that from happening.
Right. But now we literally have... Yeah. it's pretty crazy. No, Mia.
You know, it's not. I'm sure that like we were having that many pregnancies before, rape pregnancies before.
Right.
It's just now that there's nothing for those women to do about it,
Right.
except go out of state or something. But
Yeah, which is just it's not a solution because it's just a chain.
Obviously.
It's just a ripple effect. Once you have women from other states who are having to go to Mia. Okay, no.
we're upsetting Mia.
Sorry. Mia is very upset by this conversation.
She's protesting. I get
She
it.
is.
Hey, Cosmo. Hey, beautiful boy. No, that's my Dr. Pepper. Get down.
My dog's not having it today. Okay.
Well, I give him my Dr. Pepper bottles as a chew toy, so every time, and
Have a
sometimes,
Dr. Pepper? Yeah.
sometimes, every time I leave the room, I have to put it somewhere where he can't get it, because no matter how much Dr. Pepper is inside of it, he will chomp
want
it,
to
and,
chew
and
it,
then
yeah.
and then drink it.
Right.
So he's eyeballing. He's waiting for me to finish. Well, he's not even waiting for me to finish. He's trying to get her now, but
Before you finish, yes.
Yeah.
No, just lay down. Lay down. It's okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just because it feels. I mean, there's so much to say, but
it's unfortunate that our film keeps getting more and more relevant by the day.
yeah, and it feels like now they're talking about Democrats need to run on this pro-choice campaign sort of, which is obvious. Yeah, I mean, it's
It gets people out to vote.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, it's always a winning issue every time. If it's on a ballot, it wins. So yeah, it's a smart thing to do, but it's also very frustrating. It just feels like things could have been done before that get pushed so that it can be used as a campaign tool. So there's it is crazy because it's like I guess it is part of what we are dealing with. The thing is, it's such a huge issue that it's like it's so unbelievable. It's hard to get people to really, because it's such a scary word, talking about abortion. So a lot of people don't want to talk about it or hear about it. They don't realize that it is the ripple effect. It affects everything. If people don't have the capability to control their family planning, which is like everything, I mean, there are some states now and some Republicans who, from what I understand, are doing the whole, we need to talk about if it's, an emergency situation to save the mother's life, blah, blah, blah. That's all irrelevant. It's so important that people have the freedom to do what they need to do to plan their family and to plan. Doesn't
bar
matter.
none. That's it.
Yes. I don't care what your reason is.
But what's dumb is the fact that they will hem and haw with those details shows that they don't actually have any scruples, because if you're okay with it in certain circumstances, then why wouldn't you be in all circumstances?
Right. Things, if they say, whether or not it's detrimental to the mother's life. Well, there's a lot of things that are detrimental to people's lives.
Right.
Like financial burdens.
Yeah, of course.
Just some people, there's a million reasons. You could sit here and hypothetical, situation yourself all day. But
Well, that's what. Yeah, for sure. Oh, I
but
also never thought like the Voting Rights Act would be under attack, but they've pretty much dismantled all that. But I mean, this is all Trump's
well,
doing.
yeah,
So.
and then there's the people. People talk about how, um, in a lot of states, you can't vote if you have committed a felony.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
one way to create more female, women, or non-male voters is to make them felons by creating more crimes for them to
Right.
commit.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting.
that's one, just one thing people have brought up. Um, it's and you've got he who shall not be named or whatever going around saying stuff like I'm the guy who ended Roe, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like
But
you know
what's so dumb? Well, I mean, what? Okay. Well, I mean,
not
obviously
making
that's
any
dumb.
sense.
But what's good about that is, uh, he's only speaking to his base. Like and that's only 10-20% of the country that is fully on that side. Like even in the Republican legislature, like the Gen Pop,
Yeah.
they don't they are not on his side when it comes to abortion. Like they just
No.
that's why they've lost in so many of the recent elections is because
But
especially immediately after Roe.
but it's
Or
just so
immediately after
hard for
Dobbs, I
me.
mean.
It's so hard for me to even like it's so hard for me to even. I'm like, yeah, it's only 10 to 20%, blah blah blah. But like for some reason, he is the
Oh
going
yeah, for
to
sure.
be the nominee
Yeah.
for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It's like
Despite all of the things he does and says, like there's
yeah.
still the fact that even if on this one issue it's not the popular position that
Right.
in the Republic, but there's still all of these other things that he does and says that and has done and has said and plans to do that they're just willing anyway. That's a whole.
Yeah, we could go on all day about that, but
you're in
But yeah.
California. Imagine how I feel.
yeah. No, I know. The problem here is that the clinics and places here are getting backed up, and they
Yeah,
are getting
I'm sure.
overrun with people. Colorado is too.
Mm-hmm.
Wait lists are getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it is. It's going to affect so much and so many, and I mean it already has. It is right now. And the importance of it, the gravity of the situation, the severity of the situation is so huge, and it just kind of feels like right when it happened, right when Roe was overturned, well, right when all the heartbeat bill and all that stuff started coming out in Texas and the other states, it was that's when I really started to freak out, because it felt so drastic, like it just felt so huge, and you shouldn't have to be a woman for it to affect you, for it to mean something to you. But
Right.
I think obviously it does have more of an impact. I think when you, I mean, I don't know, but it that's irrelevant. But it just I think now I have all of this like I said, not that I could have changed anything, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm talking in circles. It just feels like
it's exhausting, is what it is.
It is. I guess that's what I'm trying to get across. Is that right when it happened, I was really upset and I was screaming and I was angry and I was mad, and I still am. I'm still angry and mad and furious and pissed off and but it's And I know some of the older generations who have been fighting this for so long. That's why there is kind of like, I was like, why is there's this like sense of apathy sort of, it feels like, and I know it's not that, but it does feel like it is exhausting and it's tiring because it feels like, it is so infuriating. And when you just feel like no matter what you do, you get the same end result.
Yeah.
It just feels sort of futile sometimes. And, sometimes you feel like, well, yeah, let's just vote. I mean, let's just put the focus on voting. But we've been voting for a long time. And ballots are not always designed
Right.
for everyone to vote in the way that, like, because just because someone is pro-choice, just because any candidate you vote for is pro-choice, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to have any way to implement
Right.
that unless.
Well, especially when the
it's
Supreme Court has been stacked against it. Like,
right.
there's not a whole lot anybody can. I mean, you still got to push for it, but,
Yeah.
it starts, it's top down, it's bottom up. Like, everybody has to do as much as they can.
Yeah, and I feel sort of like this like sort of noob, naive, little, like I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, like duh, Reagan, like of course, like this is how it's always been. And so I guess I just grew up with it always, and knowing that it was always there, and
Right.
that not in
Well,
like the
it was
sense of
also
like
it was also like, go ahead.
well, I just like it wasn't that it wasn't not like, oh, that was always an option. I just mean like it wasn't something that like I just always knew that if I had control over that. Like it always just felt like, well, if anything ever did happen,
Right.
I can, thank God I can. It's such a and as a woman, as a girl, unfortunately, you think about what if things not necessarily like, it is just it's something that can happen to you whether you want it to or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Texas.
Right. So that's the thing is that, yeah, I have jokes written about it.
I can tell.
Stand up.
I can tell how funny you think the whole situation is. Jeez, Reagan.
We won't tell jokes. We won't tell those jokes. No. It's not you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean.
Because it's sad to think about the fact that, I mean, even kids that are wanted and planned and have horrible upbringings. Imagine being born to a person who wanted to abort you but couldn't. It's not going to be a lot of fun, and it's just going to cause. You think I have a pin on my hat that says, "Abortion access is economic justice." It is because it's
of course no. I mean, yeah.
That you think the economy is going to get better if we start making people have children that they can't afford?
Right.
Like, come on. It's literally the ripple effect. But it's literally the center of it. And people, it's like, it drives me insane when you see on the news where people, it's like, I'm sure I have already said this in another one of our episodes, but it's like where it shows what the highest rankings of importance of people voting, like what's the most important thing to them, and the first thing is like the economy. Inflation,
immigration.
Like, well, what? Yeah, well,
yeah.
It's like what do you think? What do you like? I know most people are not connecting this, but our population growth is literally one of the most important things.
Ask anybody that has had kids grow up and leave the house. if they looked at their bank account and looked at, just brass tacks, what's been the most costly thing in your entire life, it's going to be the kids, of course.
And just the most life-altering. I mean...
Yeah.
It's not something... raising a child, it's a person. I was saying something to someone the other day. I was like, I don't know if maybe I was talking to you, but I was like, I literally don't know how to make that sound any more profound, but it's literally a human being. It's a human being that you are keeping alive, and not just keeping alive, but like educating and
this
like
100%
guiding.
dependent on you until at least they're mid-teens.
Yeah. And it's on one hand it can be very simple. On one hand it's like, it's like you
keep talking. I'm gonna let Turtle out, but I can hear you.
Yeah. It's just like there are some people have better instincts in this way than others. But I do think that as human beings, I think there have been studies that have talked about how I forget what this was, but it was an article or something that I read. I wish I remember what it was, but they were talking about how our instincts as human beings are naturally mostly to be good and to take care of each other and to take care of other things that can't take care of itself. Like finding a, helpless baby in the middle of the woods who, is crying and can't take care of itself.
I hate it when that happens.
Right. But most people would do something. It's it's innate, in us. And so I think, to raise a child, to take care of a child is, of course, something that can be very simple to some. But it is not for everyone. And I can
honestly, we all know plenty of people that were like, I don't think you should have had that kid.
Yeah.
And maybe they grow into it or whatever, but initially it's like, I don't think that person's suited for that role.
And there are so many things that, that can be said that is not really ethically or okay to say. As a parent or as anybody who knows a parent like that or as a child of someone like that, it's not something that people are comfortable hearing, that they either shouldn't have had their kids that they had, or kids saying that, their parents shouldn't have had them. I mean, it's not something people... Because you want to look around and go, but look, everything's okay. Like, it shouldn't happen, but, hey, I'm here and, whatever.
Right.
I have a interesting... I mean, it's like, I think it should be... Now that these abortion bans and laws are in place, it is no longer. I think when you have someone, when you give birth to a person, it should be an invitation to come to this awesome place that I have designed for you, and that I am ready to be your guide. I am ready to, and of course, this is like in a perfect world. This is like such a privileged way of being able to live in these days. But this is how it should be. It should be a choice, obviously, and a deliberate choice, and something that the person has. And whether you're adopting a child or any time you are putting yourself in charge of another person, because this, I think, world is full of so many selfish and greedy and horrible people. Sorry, not sorry. Because they had parents that did not think more about the impact they were having on the fucking future. Sorry,
I have a friend who was childless her entire life, and she got really depressed and lonely, had issues with her family and all this stuff. And she hid it from everyone. And then 9 months later, she popped out a couple of twins, and I was like, how did that happen? And she was like, yeah, I got lonely. I literally had the kids because I was lonely, and I wanted someone to love me unconditionally. I'm like, that's not why you should have kids. Like, just because you're lonely.
That's going to create a lot of problems for those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, when I say, it makes me sound so, I hate, sometimes I don't ever want to listen to these back because it just makes me.
We can cut this out if you want.
I'm like, no, but it's like, it's true though. It's like, but it makes me sound so, but it's like, even those kids might not even ever realize how messed up they are because of, they'll just, sometimes there's like I know there's just shitty people out there, and I'm not saying that her kids will turn out to be shitty people.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But I just mean, like, there are so many people, and I know I've been one of them. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not like I this person who's never inflicted any problems on other people because of, like, we all have our issues. Everybody's, like, has certain degrees of how good of a person they are, whatever. And throughout their lives, I've learned a lot of lessons. I've made a lot of mistakes, whatever. But I can ultimately say I do have a joke about this, but there's like some truth to it, I feel. Like, if I had the kid that I was pregnant with when I was 18, I don't think it would have gone well for that kid, and I don't think it would have been good for that kid.
And that's fine to say. You're being practical.
No, yeah, yeah. I don't think that I would have been a good mom. I don't think that kid would have been a good person because I would not have been a good. And that's to say, you have all these people like say, oh, there's stories about people who have terrible parents and come out to be great people all the time. It's like, but the cards are stacked to get. It's like, why would you want to give somebody a shitty hand if you don't?
And they
have
probably
to?
They probably became great because they had to suffer and learn from that. And it's like, what? Yeah.
Why would you want to willingly, knowingly put anyone through that when it doesn't have to happen for yourself and somebody else? And it's not to say that, like, thank God I did not have to go through that. I mean, and I didn't have to put anybody else through that. And I mean, my life obviously would have turned out so much differently. If I wasn't able to make that choice for myself,
right?
If I like the idea of, at that time, to me, knowing that I was just so, the thought of someone growing inside of me was like terrifying. Like that was a horrifying thought.
Well, not only that, like,
I don't want anyone to ever like know that I felt that. Like, I would want, if I'm going to get pregnant, I want it to be like, I'm so excited, I'm so happy.
Right.
Not, oh my God, get it out.
Right, like how it is in the movies. But, like, that's the reason nobody talks about how, like, the vast majority of pregnancies are unexpected. Like that's, they just don't talk about it because that makes the kid feel bad or whatever.
Right.
But it's like,
but I'm all about, like, having real conversations.
Yeah.
If we aren't able to talk about this stuff, it's like people that have babies for reasons like you talked about, like because they're lonely. Some people, at least your friend I do have some hope for that child, because at least your friend was able to realize that that's why they had the baby.
Yeah.
A lot of people have babies for that reason, and they don't realize that that's why they're having the child.
Right.
And a lot gets put on that child because that child is now an extension of that person rather than just their own autonomous person who has completely different, like, that's the thing that I think ultimately, as a parent, your goal now I'm giving because I'm some person to be giving parenting advice, but I do think that as a parent, at least personally, my goal is to raise someone who is capable of, obviously they are capable of making their own thoughts, and but like someone who is completely independent of you. Like, the idea to me that I would ever want to raise someone who is like an extension of me is just like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, I would rather just do my own things.
Right.
Why do I need someone? Why do I need someone else to?
I need two of you.
Yeah. Why does that even need to happen? So it's like, I think, regardless of who that person turns out, I think that's the thing, is that parents do. It is like, of course you are proud of the person that you've raised, because you've raised them, and in a sense you do feel like it is a reflection of you, because you did raise that person. It's like Mia, my dog, it's like, yeah, look how cute she is. Not like I made her that cute, but I groom her and I take good care of her, and I'm like, she's my dog. But it's different with a human, because they are like I don't know what I'm trying to say. This is sounding so silly. Oh God, this is why I hate listening to these things back.
Do you do that? I don't know why you would do that. I barely do it, and I edit these things.
No, I don't. I don't listen to them back. I
Yeah,
couldn't because of these stupid things I say.
Well, they're so long too.
I know.
I don't have the time.
But yeah,
no,
I mean,
I know what you're saying, man. I get it.
It's like, of course, like, but I it's like, as a parent, there's so many things that I think of, and I think about, like, and not that this stuff makes any difference, but like, when parents say, I'm so proud of you, like when kids like get good grades or do really well in a school play or whatever, I've heard people say, instead of saying, I'm so proud of you, you should say, you should be so proud of yourself. You should be so proud of yourself. Because the idea is to not help make your kids reliant on dependent on on your praise,
your approval,
or
your
approval for their validation.
Sure.
But I mean, come on, like any human being. But I mean, the thing is, like, it's like I am proud of you, but and it's like, but at the same time, I get it. I do, but I do think that I think it's natural for us to feel validated when other people like what we did, or
okay, quickly, let me deal with kids these days.
Yes. Hey everybody. Oh, it's Reagan, and I'm here coming to you from my car after work. I am tired. I am not gonna make a lot of sense right now, but I am just wanting to say that I am very grateful to anyone who is watching this and and is caring about this and is interested in the story that we're telling here, because it is really something I'm extremely passionate about, this story, and if you are too, then click the link in the description, click the QR code, subscribe, like. What are they smash the like button. I don't know. I'm not good at this. I'm terrible at this. And I know I could be a lot more eloquent than I am being right now at another time. But this is the time. Oh my God. What am I saying?
Now, let me be the old man in the room that has no kids.
Let's do it.
Just briefly. It is interesting that we are the last generation of latchkey kids, and the idea of parenting has changed so vastly in the thought process of, oh, we're going to raise the best, that's what everyone wants to do, is raise the best generation of children. And at the same time, all of these kids are filled with all of these emotional issues. We've been overbearing to try and be super protective and okay, well, don't say that I'm proud of you. Say you should be proud of you. All of this subtle, nuanced stuff, which does make logical sense, but they also have all of these issues.
Right. Have you heard of gentle parenting?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Which is like, duh, like we would all wouldn't we all love to be gentle parents?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, I think that's what everybody would love to be able to do all the time.
For our two listeners, describe what that is.
Gentle parenting is like, it's practicing. It's kind of not. It's not in the same vein of the like you're so proud of yourself or I'm so proud of you. But it is like, if your child is feeling upset or angry, or if they're having a tantrum, rather than telling them, you're going to put them in timeout if they don't stop it.
Right.
Ask them about, why they're feeling the way they like. It's basically like it is a very therapeutic, I don't know the words. I don't know.
You become your kid's therapist as opposed to just
like
get out of the house.
Right. Or just telling them to stop. I know that sometimes I know that obviously you can't just tell a kid to stop. There are this. I'm not saying that gentle parenting is bad, because I do agree with a lot of it. And I do think that way more people, that is like a huge thing, is, being more in touch with your kids. That's something the boomer generation just did not get in any way, shape, or form. But I think that there is something to a lot of, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know who's listening to this, but I like a lot of the kids that my kid went to school with, and it's not gentle parenting. It's like no parenting. It's like, and I talked about it with another parent of a child who's a couple 3 or 4 years older than Kylie. So still Gen Z, older than Kylie though. They just started college. He was talking too about, especially here in LA, you have a lot of kids who are daughters and sons and children of just wealthy industry type parents who I'm sure they feel like great parents, and I'm sure they give their kids all of the material things that they want and need, and
they tell the nanny how to discipline those children.
Yeah. And I get it. I know COVID did a lot. COVID did a lot to these kids.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that 100%. So Kylie's generation was sitting in their room for all of their 6th grade, her age kid. Freshman in high school right now here in California. At least they did not go back. There was no socialization. They were just on little squares of seeing each other in their rooms, which I was worried at the time, but at the same time I was also worried about COVID. So it was like it was a total lose-lose situation just watching.
Wouldn't it have been cool? It would have been so wholesome had we realized that if you were outdoors, you were a lot safer. Still taking precautions and everything, but we could have gone back to the whole classic hippie, let's just go sit on the grass and then we'll learn some stuff together.
Kids, it finally did go that way, but it took so long. It was the fall of 2020, I think. It was so months, six, maybe no, it might have been a whole year. Oh
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't remember.
Probably.
I think it was 2021 when sports. Yeah, it was 2021 when sports came back, but it was all outdoor for here. So that's when she started playing volleyball. Because there was nothing. Like I told her she had to do something. I was like, "You've got to get off your butt.
You gotta get out of my house."
Yeah, for real though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These kids, she was literally sitting in her room for over a year. I mean, and in such a developmental phase of your growing up, like the jump from elementary school to middle school. You know, it's just such a it's such a different time. It's just such
it's so different for kids that like lived in a city, like a big city.
Yeah.
Like not that I had kids, but like my experience growing up when I was a kid, my dad had land. Like I was outside just by myself like the whole time. So like if a pandemic had happened, other than going to school, nothing would have changed.
Yeah.
Like I was outside the whole time anyway. Like you know, it was fine.
Well, here, I mean, we do live in I mean, thankfully during the pandemic, we did go outside. We went for walks.
Sure.
We went for drives.
California's
we went
pretty.
to have picnics. Yeah, I mean, we would drive up into the Angeles National Forest and go find a really pretty spot and sit. And I mean, I kind of miss, in a sense, like it did kind of get us out more. Because, you know, we would go to the beach, you know, even during when it was like not so hot, we would just go just for the scenery, just because we were tired of being in our apartment.
But still, the socialization aspect, you know, it's huge.
Yeah. And for her, for
I never liked to socialize when I was a kid, so it wasn't a problem for me. But
yeah, Kylie is a very social.
Yeah.
You know, she's a lot like me. Like we have our very we do well alone. Like, I do very well alone. I am very good at occupying myself, and I can be my own best friend in times that I need to be. And sometimes I want to be. Kylie is the same way. But I also, like, thrive in groups of people that I connect with. And I'm like, there's something about me that like has to be in groups of people from time to time. I have to have other people. Like I'm just such a, I don't know what that is, but Kylie is the same way. But so the pandemic, it's weird because there's some times where I miss I miss just being able to be for days and days and days on it, and just no one bothering you, nowhere to be, nowhere to go, nothing to do.
Right. It's a great excuse to watch TV. Like there's nothing else to do, so like.
It was actually quite beautiful. All the video games I got to play and all the. I mean, there was a period of time where it was really great.
I mean, I don't get sick very much, but in the like one time a year or every couple of years that I do, I'm like, well, I probably should be like working, but I can't.
I mean, well, I guess it's just watching stuff. Yeah. Oh darn.
That's great.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, is that there was that aspect of it, but what it did to people, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long time before we actually really see the actual effect. I mean, I feel like I really do feel like it has changed. It did something to people. Just short fuses, no patience. I don't know what's going on with the world, but I feel like after the pan, everything just sort of went like freaking nutso, man. Like I haven't, I don't know, like from just like Kylie, like in middle school when they all got back, when all the kids got back, there were the things she would tell us that was happening in her classrooms were just insane. Like, and the teachers just, they couldn't, there was nothing they could do. Like, they had no control over what was happening. These kids were watching like hardcore porn on their Chromebooks that are given to them by, the school. They were hacking them, and this was just happening constantly, and the teachers, just, there was nothing they could do. And this was like in Kylie's honors class, because during the pandemic, when they were all doing school at home, everybody got a free pass. There was no, oh, you have to retake this grade. Everybody was at home. Everybody was going through stuff. So they just said, everybody goes. Everybody's great. So the honor roll classes, like, they were supposed to have like separate classes for honor roll kids, but all of those classes were just full of kids who cheated.
Full of everyone.
Yeah, it was just like at home too. They all cheated like crazy. I mean, there was so much cheating going on. It was just, you could look everything up. But, these kids.
Yeah, of course.
There was no, so.
It's so interesting. Like, it would have. I mean, it would have put a damper on the natural. Not natural, it's built into the system, but like, if we had just been like, all right, schooling is taking a year off, and then we'll pick up exactly where you were, like, in a year or whatever, like everyone just had to essentially be held back a year, and then their entire life was delayed a year, but the development, I don't know. I wonder if that would have been any better or worse for the world.
Yeah, I don't really know what the real answer to all of that would have been, because, there were some things that she learned and that we did and that we were able to, like, we made some really silly videos, because a lot of the school was like, record yourself doing this and then send the video to the teacher. We did this hilarious video where she dressed up as King Hammurabi, the king of Babylon, and it was just absolutely hysterical. So thanks to the pandemic for that. But I mean, yeah, it's I can't imagine being their age. Like, she was 10 when it happened. And just the, who you are as a person from the age of 10 to 14 is so
different. I was about to say, now she's dating. Like, that's such a huge,
it's so huge
difference.
Right. But for me, it's like whatever, like,
you remember it for, like, it was a couple months ago.
Nothing. Yeah.
Although that is interesting, and then after this we'll get on track.
Yeah, no, but,
it is interesting though, because like, we obviously it had a bigger impact on the people that were growing during that period, but we don't really think about, unless we actually got COVID. We don't really think about the emotional impact that we had, that like us adults have. Yeah. Like, we were like, well, let's focus on the kids,
yeah. I did not expect the first half of my 30s to be like, that's just not what it's like, I turned 30. I was thinking about it. I turned 33 in 2020. So, like, I was 32, and not that that's much different than 36, but sometimes I do feel like, so much of my 30s got sucked up by that I just, like, I had so many other things planned for those years in my mind, like, by 35, I was going to have, like, certain things done that just, obviously, that did not get to happen.
Well, and it's like, whenever things started opening back up, we were like, okay, now it's going to overcompensate. And it's like, overcompensate, we're just back to normal. Like, it's not...
Right.
We're hoping we'd be like, okay, now we can we can pull everything back and people will
Yeah.
be giving us houses and all this
Right.
stuff. But it's like that didn't really happen.
It's like it's shitty.
Like nothing ever happened for us.
Right.
Anyway.
And yeah, but I mean, okay, so
The one good thing that did happen during the pandemic is a lot of people got their scripts written.
yeah.
Now, that's not what we've done. We started this a few months ago. But
Right.
to make that jump, here we are. And we'll talk more about it after this break. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so this story, this script, I feel like, so in connection to sort of what we were just talking about, like there were things that I wanted to do with my career that, I'm now finally doing with you and this short film that we're working on also right now. I wanted to get more stuff going for myself, like telling stories that I really cared about, because it's like growing up as a creative person, I was so into I am an actor, like, for first and foremost. Like, that'll always be what my first love and passion is. But my parents right now this is sort of it all ties into the plot of this.
Go for it, Ray.
And, yeah. So growing up, when I was a little bitty, the whole reason I started as an actor in this business was because my dad bought a camcorder, one of those big honking cameras, in 1987 to like document my birth. And we have the video of him like, all right, this is her room here, or this is their room. They didn't know if I was gonna what my gender was gonna be, so they were ready for whatever. So they were like, all right, this is we're getting ready, and all the way up until everybody coming to visit me and the hospital and everything. And my dad made sure to get that tape uploaded digitally. So we have that, and we have one other 8mm tape uploaded digitally that we have for sure. But ever since that, my dad bought that camcorder that year and sort of just never took the camera off of me. Like, they were just so enamored with me.
That explains a lot.
My parents had been married for 6 years by the time I was born, and my mom had had multiple pregnancies before mine, none of which had worked out. And then I came along, and I came through. So I was sort of this, like, and my mom had me at 35, or she was almost 35, so I was a very celebrated baby. I was very welcomed into this world, and everybody was so excited, so excited that I was born, which is great, wonderful. But they had the camera just on me a lot. But I loved the camera, and I was very
Why wouldn't
excited.
You? You're their miracle baby.
Yes, I was the angel miracle baby child, but I loved the camera, and not only did I love the camera, but there was something about, like, I loved watching movies and TV and stories. And my parents, like, I'd be in my high chair, eating, and they would have me in front of the TV, and I would wiggle out of the high chair and get down in front of the TV and act out everything that I had just watched on TV. So I would watch something and then play it back, and it would be like word for word. I was very enamored by narrative stories. Like anything that had a beginning, middle, and end, I was like all about it. And I would, after I got to be old enough to start setting up the camera with the tripod, my dad helped me set the camera up. I was like 4 or 5. That became like my favorite toy. And so my parents have these 8mm tapes. There's hundreds of them. Like, there's so many of them. And they're all disintegrating. Like, they're all falling apart because it's, like, been, 30 plus years now. And, but they're all me basically growing up in front of the camera and putting on these insane stories. Like, the story we're writing about right now is I probably would have come up with it. Like, there's one that I tell where I'm like this woman who guards these. I'm a shepherd woman. We live in South Africa. My husband was shot in the head by hunters. They thought that they thought he was an animal, and they mistook him for an animal, and they shot him. And I've been raising these children, and I tell these stories. I'm 5 when I'm telling this story, but it's like I watched way too much TV and way too, so I was just very, very dramatic anyway. So
Man, imagine TikTok was out whenever you were going through all this.
I know. Like, I'm so glad it wasn't, though. God, that oof. Yeah, so I totally forgot why I was telling this, but it had a connection to what we were just talking about somehow, because yes.
Well, you were talking about
I remember
getting
now.
back to your passions.
Yes. So when I was little, I would come up with these stories. I wouldn't just be like, the thing is, my mom got me into acting, and that's sort of where I just like went with it all the way. But I feel like there's a lot of what I was doing then that sort of gets neglected, which is actual coming up with a story. Not just that, but I did camera tricks. My dad taught me how to do like make things disappear, so I would do stuff like that. I was really big on, I didn't have like editing software, so it was all just practical, like,
it was in camera.
Just doing stuff I could do with what I had with the camera. But I feel like, and then I got older in my teenage years, and I had friends at that time that were starting to make their own films and do their own stuff like that, and I always wanted to do that for myself. And my parents would bring up film school, but I was always the word school just like was a huge turnoff for me. And I was like, I've been learning my whole life on set, but it's not true. I could have definitely benefited from going to film school. But I've always wanted to I've always had so many. I also used to write songs. I used to do a lot more than just want to be. And I still, I writing and this sort of thing has always been something I've wanted to. It's a very roundabout way of explaining that my whole life I feel like telling stories that are important to me, and that sort of thing has always been something that I've wanted to do. So here we are. I feel like that end,
one of the, and we'll get to this specific scene that I want to swap out, but since we're already on the topic of raising people and mothers and all this, one of the main things that I want to do is really get into the nitty-gritty and establish who these characters are, because like mostly right now I'm thinking about the mother character, and obviously her character represents the past, and because she's literally stuck in the past. So
Yeah.
she's a voice of a woman that's fully embraced the patriarchy, that's fully been gaslit and accepts it, and she's just that old fashioned housewife ideal. But that's about all she is to the story. I mean, obviously, there's the plot elements that how she let Deb out and didn't come looking for her, and like how all this stuff. But there's not really a character arc for her or anything. So it would be nice to try and establish these people as more real people, or at least in movie terms. Like, and not everybody has to have an arc, but it would be nice if there was some sort of development,
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, because she is a supporting character, but she's such a important part of Deb's life that it would be nice to. And same with the brother. There's a little bit more with the brother, but it would be nice if those central characters to who she is have a little bit of, especially because Deb is the caretaker of the family. Or she makes herself that. It would be nice if there was something, and I have no idea what it would be, especially because they're only in like 3 scenes. So I don't know. Like, she's dealing with this dementia issue. She's stuck in the past. I don't know if she feels guilty about how she handled her kids, not coming after them, or I don't know what the arc could be for her and how that shows itself.
I'm
not saying you have the answer or anything.
No. What was the mom's name?
Lucille.
That's right.
Think of Lucille as from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
And we can change her name to whatever, obviously.
No, it's good.
Anything. I mean, I like more Southern names, but for this thing. But for now, her name is Lucille.
Yeah.
So, like, when we meet her issue that she has is, she's half in the past, half in reality. What's happening in front of her.
She dips in and out. Yeah.
She dips in and out. By the end of it, she's kind of fully in the. So that's kind of an arc, but not really. So like, she has a relationship with her kids. It's a little strained, but they're going by. They're trying to be appreciative of the moment and take care of her. Her first husband dies, and then she immediately hooks up with this fella named Rusk, who is a bad guy, but he puts the roof over everyone's head, so she accepts that. She is very much the classic matriarchal role. Wants to be at home. The man is the head of the household, that kind of thing.
Right.
Maybe the question is, why does she just blindly accept that? Is it her culture? Is it that she doesn't have her own mental fortitude to be her own? Deb is the one that took charge of her own life and her brother's life. Like, she did the opposite of her mom, because her mom never wanted to be her own person. She just was fine for whatever reason, being just kind of there.
Yeah.
Being the support of the husband. Not even really being a great mother or anything. So, this is the psychology of the character. I don't know how it plays into what she's been carrying all these years.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the thing that we can pull from real life. I mean, these are real people that we want to. I'm not saying specifically your mom but just people that we know.
No, yeah, for sure. I think that so Deb left. Deb
left when she was like 14, maybe 15.
Right.
She stole Dan, who was like 5 at the time, so like a little kid, and then she raised him for 6 or 7 years, and then Rusk ended up, I don't know, probably just going out for cigarettes, and then they slowly started coming back, especially once the dementia started showing up,
right.
Which is probably only in the last couple of years. So yeah, that's the history with that. And then the mom never came looking. She was like, "Well, the kids got, they gotta leave when they want to do their own thing, so that's fine. I'm supportive of them. Every bird flies. What is it?
It flies the coop.
Flute. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, it leaves the nest.
She was in denial, obviously, but she, obviously that a good mother would not let that happen. But
right, and but I also think that Lucille, if Rusk was not so great of a guy, maybe she would have felt like, well, it's better off there somewhere else than
for sure. Well, I think so Lucille kind of represents. I mean, there are other characters in the script as well that do, but she kind of represents what happens if you blindly accept the patriarchy and
right.
You just the only role that you serve to society is as a wife and not as your own person. Right. And she represents what can happen over years and a whole lifetime of just going along with that ideal. So even if Rusk was, not that he was ever supportive or like super great to her, but even if he was just like a trash kind of generic classic 50s husband or whatever, she would just accept that.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is a trashy guy, so like, I'm not saying he did anything ever violent to her. I don't know that he did ever beat her. He might have. Who knows? But yeah, she just like accepts it. And how does that wear on somebody? It breaks down her mental fortitude over all those years.
Right.
I mean, maybe the arc is her coming to terms with the fact that Rusk was a bad dude. Or that she could have done something better for her kids. Maybe there's a conversation where, I don't know. Because not everybody has to have, like when we were trying to come up with the ending, it's like not everything needs to be sealed up in a nice little bow or anything. I don't mind if it's dirty and if it's unresolved.
Right, but I mean sometimes, especially for a character like Lucille, who is, her mom or whatever, it could be nice for there to be some sort of like, I don't know. Because I mean, in real life, not the thing is, not everybody gets an apology.
Yeah, of course.
Or gets any sort of, not everybody gets to have closure on everything.
Right.
But for the sake of it being a movie, or
And enjoyable,
yeah,
maybe.
Maybe there could be some what's the word I'm looking for? Acknowledgement, like
Mm-hmm.
some on Lucille's end, like when.
Where are you looking?
Um.
Because there is a conversation, where she's like, "Did you even come looking for me?"
Uh-huh.
That's a nice little depth. I don't know where Lucille's progression of her dementia is in that moment. But I do
Yeah.
like what you're saying.
Like.
Let me see if I can find. I think that part is on page 74, starting around there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 75. Did you ever come looking for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just her. Dana's not around, so it's just her and Deb. And it could be there. It could be another scene. It could be later or whatever. And I do like the idea that it's just like a kind of an acknowledgement. Even,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it would mean the world to Deb if it was just like she saw that Deb or Lucille was doubting,
Right.
like
That
doubting how it was.
if she even just acknowledged that, like,
It
things
wasn't
could
hunky
have
dory.
been better. Right.
Yeah.
Um.
And maybe it's a moment that's like, maybe it's later or something, but maybe it's a moment where she does think it's the past and she's like, well, Rusk isn't around, so like, I'm having this problem. Maybe she like admits that there's an issue. I don't like the subtlety of
Maybe there's, I don't know. Maybe there's like a scene where Deb is I don't know, maybe there's a scene where Deb's like getting up to leave the house, like she's gonna go, like she's just leaving.
Mhm.
And Lucille like stops her and says something like, please don't leave, or something, and she's like,
Mhm.
I'm just going to like blah blah blah, or I'm just gonna go. And the mom like maybe like gives her like a thing, like telling her that, you know like she's talking to her like she's 15 again, like she's gonna, like
Mhm.
she's running away, and
Mhm.
she's maybe saying something to her like, you know you're the only, like, stuff she's never said, like, you're the only thing that brings me any joy in this house, or or
Mhm.
just like, you know I don't know what I'll do without, something that she would have never said to her. And she's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just like,
Mhm.
I don't know, or just something that like she's in the past, but she's saying something to her that
Yeah.
she
Has
never.
needed to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Unless
It
that's
would.
just too obvious, not obvious, but
To Seventh Heaven.
yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
If it was
I
done
like
the right way.
I like the area for sure. Cause like that's the issue Deb has with her. Why she can't really connect with her is because she is in denial and she doesn't really want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is, Deb feels abandoned by her mother because she was forced to be in the parental role to
Right,
take care of
right.
her little brother, and they had to run away, and then for years she had to be the mom to this kid, and she didn't get to do her own growth and experiencing
Right.
like what it was like to grow. And also her mom didn't come looking for her, so like her mom was just like, well, the kids will be kids.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna,
She just kind of accepted it
yeah.
without.
Well, and also like she was probably worried about her mom the whole time, knowing what kind of guy she was with.
Exactly.
and the fact that she wasn't willing to admit that, all for the sake of, well, the roof has been, I have stability now.
Right.
Even though it's not, it's only financial stability, if that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Which isn't even.
So like all of this has been building in Deb, and that's why she doesn't like to talk about it.
Right.
And she's kind of resentful of her mom, even though she also knows, with her mental condition, an apology might not even last. It might not even mean anything because.
That documentary I watched the other night that I was telling you about on HBO.
The Generational.
Yeah, it was crazy. A lot of it I felt like it'd be really good to watch it because a lot of the issues were this for our short film too, but just like this girl whose grandpa abused tons of little girls as a chiropractor. He sexually abused tons of girls, but every town, this was back in the 70s, and he would be convicted of things, and then they would just move to a new town and start over fresh somewhere new, and it was just insane how he would get away with this stuff. But one of the girls, the documentary is made by a journalist who the grandpa, this is her grandpa that I'm talking about. So she had a sister though who did not feel the same about their mom as the journalist did, because they were both, she would say mom brought us around him, mom let him babysit us, I know he did tons of stuff to me, you may not have remembered it, but it's not, they get into it because she's the documentarian is saying, she kind of puts their mom up on a pedestal, and the mom is very against the grandpa, and is kind of on helping the journalist get to these interviews and kind of helping her tell this story, but the mom is also, you can tell in a lot of her interviews and stuff, she'll say stuff like, I made sure that he was being watched. They were never alone together. But the daughter's going, yeah, I was. And you set it up to where he could harm me. And you allowed that to happen. You may not have done it, of course, intentionally. Of course, I understand, you're a mom and you needed a babysitter and you needed, it's I get it. But you still allowed it to happen. And there were parts of her that just could not forgive the mom for putting her in harm's way, whether or not she meant to or not. And so I think there's some of that here where it's she knows that her mom is not a bad person, and she knows that her mom didn't intentionally hurt her, but it is an abandonment. It's you still, it's your lack of doing anything. It's your lack of immediate, that sense of urgency when it comes to your children, that most people would expect out of a mother. It's in the documentary, it's that mom knew that her father had abused,
what if the moment, and it just kind of comes maybe at an emotional moment where Deb either needs catharsis or she's just feeling vulnerable or something, that could be really powerful. For whatever reason, she's feeling really not protected.
Yeah.
She's having a conversation with Lucille, and then you can tell that Lucille's kind of drifted off or something's happened.
Yeah.
And Lucille just kind of politely but subtly asks if Rusk ever did anything to is Rusk hurting you, or is so in that moment Deb's oh, you're acknowledging that he's a bad guy and you're
Right.
trying to take care of me. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And it's opening her up because you can tell that it's been wearing on her and that she
That's
does
yeah.
feel guilty. That could be kind of cool.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool. That would be, I mean, that would be a place for you to kind of see who Lucille, like, give her
Yeah.
depth and give the relationship a little more.
Especially if it comes at a moment when Deb needs some hope, when she
Yeah.
when she feels totally alone and she needs like someone to do something about all the things that are happening. She needs to feel protected, and she wants a mother in that moment. She's tired of being the caretaker of this entire.
And maybe
Yeah.
Rusk never did touch her or do anything like that, but he was creepy. Like maybe there was just like he looked at her weird, said weird stuff. Maybe he like did occasionally like make it seem like he was capable of doing something like that with her. But it was so subtle, and so
That
maybe
could be interesting. Like maybe so she asks, "Do you feel comfortable with Rusk?"
or
maybe
she
she's
just
stuck-
or I think she should straight up ask her like, has Rusk ever touched you inappropriately? Has he ever hurt you like has he ever touched you and hurt you physically in any way?
And Deb's response could be, she doesn't want to.
I think she tells him no, Rusk he's fine.
Yeah,
like,
that's what
no.
I'm saying.
'Cause she doesn't
Like,
want to hurt her mom's fragile.
That's not the point of this moment. She's not
Right.
trying to get her to admit
Right, because
anything.
Rusk
But
is who cares about him anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for her, it's just in this moment, she reassures her mom that no, nothing ever happened. But maybe she's remembering. The thing is, I think that would make it also more, have more of an impact on Deb, is if it was so subtle the way that he was with her, so that it finally it lets her know, oh, she did notice. Like in Deb's mind, she didn't even
acknowledge it.
or notice it or was even present enough to to even see that he was doing that.
Right.
So I think in that it could probably be like two things of like, oh, she actually did notice, and she even noticed it, and it stayed with her all this time. And not only that, but that she did want to connect. She did want to say something, and she did. But it was just, get out of
Right.
bad situations. It's because
Okay, so that's an
So-
hour 20. Okay. I'll use
So,
a
yeah.
different analogy. I have a friend who is an artist, and we recently hired her for Tilt. She's a painter, really talented, really really nice person, but she spent the last 20 years raising kids, and never needed, not because she didn't want to go into the workforce or anything. She just didn't need to.
Yeah.
She has a really cute like little family, nice husband. Just wanted to raise kids. And now that her husband is going through a job change, and she was like, "Man, I tried to like write down a resume, and I just it was heartbreaking for me to hear her say all this. Is like I have nothing to write down because I don't know. It's been 20 years since I
Right.
and I afterwards after I was recording this for a video.
Yeah.
And I was like, after that, I was like, that's patriarchy, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not so much the husband part or the part that you're playing into, but the fact
Right.
that the society, someone hiring you, would look at that and be like, oh, we can't hire her because she's been raising kids.
Right.
When we're also telling them you need to be raising kids. It's
right.
like,
Or if you could
that's-
take any of those skills that you had as a mother and
Right.
translate
Oh,
that
yeah,
onto
yeah,
a resume.
yeah, for sure.
Like time
Yeah.
management and
Yeah.
all of the things that you develop when you're
Yeah, for
a
sure.
mom raising kids. Like I was just thinking about like yesterday how when you're raising kids, I mean, I can only speak for raising one kid.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how people do multiple kids. Like, to me, that's
Right.
just like a whole other set of skills that I could just mind blowing. But for one, I was just thinking the other day, like, you know, when everybody grow, I think especially when you're young, when you're like young parents raising kids, you're both growing together and you're both learning so much together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your growth is it's like the other day I was thinking, like, man, like I have learned so much, just as far as like when I thought about when I first started raising Kylie, and just like scheduling and getting on a schedule, how important like routines are, and you know, all of this stuff. It was like stuff that, you know, honestly, I really probably wouldn't have grasped until a lot later, had I have not. And plus, like, I led a very weird life as a child actor, and never, I mean,
Right.
I had like regimens and routines and schedules and stuff, but my life was still really I never really like grasped certain.
Right, and all of that was in the hands of someone else
Right,
to take
right.
you to the places. So you were just
Right.
going along with it.
Right. It's like, but I never did college. I never did, you know, any
Right.
of that. So I never really, so like, but learning certain skills and all the things that I did, you know, manage to get down, you know, it was like, oh, these are all things that a lot of people, like, all of the things that, you know, as a mom you do, all the things that you are doing all the time are things that a lot of people pay other people to do for them. But, you know, it's like when you're just doing it all on your own, it is a whole, like, that's the thing, is it is a whole other job that like I said, people pay other people to do so that they can
Right,
have
for sure.
a normal job.
So then why doesn't the world accept those skills
As
on
a job,
resume,
because
or
it is a full on. I mean, if I were to be someone's nanny, those would be skills that would go on my resume. So
right.
then,
but not if you're wanting to be a I don't know, accountant or
right?
you know, something.
But like, if you have been managing your family's finances, you know, it's like you know, I know plenty of relationships where the stay-at-home parent, mom, whatever, is also the financial organizer and accountant and all of those things, you know, because they have the time to be at home to manage those things. You know, it's like, when I think about all the things that you know, it's like, for me, I work a part-time job. I work between 20 and 30 hours a week. Eric works 40 hours plus every week. So, you know, both of us take on responsibilities at home, but I do, you know, a lot of the stuff, like the laundry and just the general cleaning of the house, because I do have more time here at home than he does. And also his type of job is much more, like, my job is not as taxing on the brain. But
right.
on top of my job that I brings in a paycheck, there's this whole other, like, career that I have as an actor.
Right.
That
and writer now.
And it's really hard to explain to people. Here in LA, it's much more normal and accepted, and nobody questions you. But anywhere else, it's like trying to explain to people that I do have a career, but it's not a career that necessarily brings in money all the time. But it's an everyday thing that I do, like what we're doing right now, and all the other things that I do every day that contribute to my acting career. You know, it's like, and then on top of that, you know, taking care of the child. She is getting older now, so there are less things to do, but it is still very demanding. You know, especially when they're in extracurricular, and that's the thing, as a parent, you always want to provide those things for your kids. So it's I don't know how people do multiple children, but I think that as far as like this, as far as getting back to like this story and you know, being I think that, you know, every parent and every child and like what, like your story, all this, it's like our parents are real people. Our parents are just humans that created a person just like every other person can do. And no matter
Well, actually, that might be a nice arc for Dan's character as well, because Dan's bitter about the whole everything. He's mad.
Yeah.
That's why he kind of makes fun of her dementia and like pushes her and all this stuff.
Right.
He's still there because he likes the idea of a family unit, but he's still bitter about it underneath it all. So maybe his arc is Deb kind of teaching him that she's still human. She's a person. Like looking at him, being able to look at his mother in the situation that he was raised in.
Right.
That
she
like
wasn't
this,
just born
she was,
mom. Hey everybody. Thanks for making it to another episode of Cameron and I writing this movie. I am in my car. I just got off work a little bit ago. I am very tired. My brain is not firing on all cylinders right now, but I just want to say how grateful I am to you. Yes, you. for being interested and for caring about what we're doing here. I'm really passionate about this story that we're telling and this script that we're writing, and if you are too, I'm not one to I don't like asking for money, but it's gonna take some to make this movie. It won't take much, relatively speaking. So if
yeah,
she had parents and she had a childhood and she had a life that she could have lived a lot differently had it not have been for these horrible men that came into her life, and a lot of people, a lot of issues stem from other people's, like, you know, my grandpa, my mom's dad, I don't necessarily think he was a bad guy, but he definitely was traumatized by the war and just a product of the time. And I think that all of his PTSD and alcoholism, and it was abuse that he put his family through. You know, it's like that shapes so much. This is what, going back to the whole why family planning and things like this are so important. Right. But that shaped 4 women. They had 4 girls. That shaped the way that 4 different women in this world managed their lives, their outlook on the world, their perspective on men.
And then it becomes generational, because then they have kids, and it, it filters down.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think that, and it's not, that's the thing, is that these aren't men that, but I look back on, my grandparents' relationship, and it is just such a tragedy. It really is. I mean, I remember their 50th wedding, or their 50th anniversary that we had. And, it was like, everybody was so, oh, the 2 lovebirds and all this stuff. And then, but all the stories I know from my mom's childhood, and I probably shouldn't talk about this stuff either, but, so, whatever this is.
But no, I totally get it. Like it's, just because someone doesn't have ill intent doesn't mean that they aren't, like, bad at,
right. But I think ignoring that also is what prolongs generational trauma, because if you can't talk about that, if you can't say this wasn't so happy, This was not such a great relationship. My grandma should have, just like we were talking about, she didn't have a workforce. She didn't speak English very well. She didn't know how to drive. She, the only jobs she had ever had were, during the war in Italy. She worked in the laundry department and washed the soldiers' uniforms, and that's how she met my grandfather at the age of 17. So it's like, had she been able to create a life for herself away from my grandpa.
Yeah, she didn't even speak the language, for crying out loud.
Right,
like,
and
she was stuck.
They tricked her. She thought that they had told her that if she had just signed these papers, she would be able to get back to Italy and everything would be null and void, and but she ended up actually admitting herself into a state-run mental institution, and she was given shock treatments, put in straitjackets, padded cell, the whole nine, and she was kept there through 4 pregnancies. They would let her out just long enough for her to get knocked up, and then my grandpa all he'd have to say is she's acting crazy again, and they would just send her right back in there. That's a horrible, torturous life. Like that's.
But 50 years
like
later,
nightmare.
they're hunky dory. It's great.
Right, exactly. So it's like they
had a beautiful life.
Yeah, madly in love, met in Venice.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, fair Verona, whatever it's like, yeah, she thought she was gonna get a better life because at the time in Italy, all anybody knew about a big, tall, 6'4" white guy from Texas was like John Wayne. And, whatever their view of whatever a cowboy was very enticing.
And these people at the time, millennials categorically have such a delayed arrested development, right?
Yeah.
Just societally, also,
right.
Emotionally, intellectually.
Yeah.
But the reverse of that is pretty much how society has been the entire existence of men in marriage.
Yeah.
Is like these people were young when they were
17,
having.
And
yeah.
He was 24,
I mean, yeah.
And he was 24, so he was significantly older than her.
Yeah. But even still, 24, being thrust upon being the patriarch and being
after
these people
being
are
in the middle of war and that he signed up for, but at the same time,
nobody knows what they're getting into during that war, especially. Come on.
But they made it very enticing. He was driving to go see a movie with his brother. He had 9 brothers and sisters. He was the oldest. They were in the car on their way to go see a movie, on their way to the movie theater, and on the radio, breaking, it came through over the radio, breaking alert. There's the bombs dropped here on Pearl Harbor, and we're going to war. We're doing it. Get battle ready, boys. It was like an ad basically for if you want to go and fight
if you want to be
country,
a man.
Yeah, then you'll go do it right now. They literally turned the car around, did not go see the movie, went to their local freaking station and signed up. Just
so
made the
interesting.
Right there.
It's so interesting because that's such a common story. Is just guys were just like, yeah, I'm going to war. I'm doing it. Yeah. No second thoughts.
Right. Well, it was also so
interesting.
heavily. The propaganda of
no, that's what I'm talking about.
All the movie stars, and Elvis went to war, and all the. I mean, it was such a cool and hip thing to do, and all the ladies will love you, and you'll be seen as a hero.
It would actually be really interesting for a film to be about. I've always been interested in because there's so many movies about war and the boys whatever. Yeah. But there's not a whole lot about what was happening back home. It was essentially an apocalypse. Half the country was off at war, unless you were old.
Right. Well, women had the best. That's when women thrived.
I know.
Women had and men love to blame that time.
No, but I know I got books all about it. We talked about it. But it would be interesting for a film to go into this guy this guy didn't go to war. He didn't really want to, and like, especially at that time, if you were a guy and you didn't want to go to war, people would probably ostracize you.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that came later. Vietnam is when it was okay to not want to go to war.
right. So it'd be interesting to have a film about that conversation with, because I'm sure there were plenty of people that were like, I'm not volunteering to go. I mean, yeah, Nazis suck, but that's war. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to put I have a life here, you know,
Well, they'd
having these
also-
conversations.
Before that time, they had never seen on footage, on film, on
Yeah.
camera,
Yeah.
the what war is.
Yeah, well, yeah. Half of the country didn't. This is why FDR had such a hard time getting supplies and like aircraft carriers to Britain, because it was just bad politically. Because half the
Right.
country was like, it's not that bad,
Right.
or like, that's them. That's not going to be
It's
our
not here.
issue.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like literally half the country was.
Yep.
Ambivalent about the war.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But
like and a lot of them were on the Nazi sides.
Yeah.
Like, we don't like to talk about it, but a lot of America
Yeah.
was like, well, I mean, yeah, the Jews, you know. So
did you? Of course, you watched Oppenheimer.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It for women, you know, that time was when, obviously, I know you know all this. I'm just saying it for the sake of
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
women were starting their own businesses.
They were doing
Women
great,
were
man.
We were like we.
They were
As
going
in
to-
I was there, but you know,
Going to college, they were
yeah,
everything.
everything.
Even in the
everything.
military, they were flying jets and stuff for
Yeah.
not at war, but over here, and the military brass, they were like, yeah, you women are like better pilots than the men are. Like there was
Well, that's
so
the thing
many.
is that there's so many things that once you, if you, especially in the military, because our women, well, we'll get into all that stuff, but there is a lot of like, you know, getting back to like what moms, like what the general like way moms have to plan their day and their life and their strategies and their everything. I mean, if you think about all the many things that a lot of women are that we have to do on a daily basis, it leads towards leadership roles in so many. I mean, it's like all the years of women being told like we're too emotional and we're too this, yet like all the men, like all the aggression and all the things that you see out of men, it's like, well, you don't call that emotional? Like, what are you talking about?
Well, the thing that the colonels would say whenever the men would complain that women were taking their jobs was that, but you don't understand, the women, even if the flight skills are equal, you men have these huge egos that are really, really
Right.
fragile, and you're not willing to listen and admit when you're wrong. The
Right.
women don't have that problem. They're open
Right.
to course correction. They're open to all these,
Right.
you know, they're more humble.
Right.
And also they have all these life skills that you don't have.
Right.
So like these women make better pilots, even if the skill level is the same. They're easier
Exactly.
to work with.
Yeah, because a lot of it is just our minds are more based on a solution to a problem rather than who is solving the problem. It's like, you know, that's if whoever or however we come to this solution, that's great. I don't really care if it was, you know, me or
Right.
you or whoever.
Right.
But with a lot of men, it can be very like they want to be the solution to the problem, not necessarily
Right.
finding any solution to the problem. It has to be
Right.
with them.
So speaking of finding solutions to problems, I think
Yeah.
that's a great conversation for Deb and Lucille to have.
Yeah.
Super subtle, super honest and open, and really, really impactful. And what I like about what we're crafting here is it has some. Wait till you read the intro, and I actually might have you read because I put a cold open in it.
What did we? Sorry, before
go
I
ahead.
forget about this, what is Dan's deal with the dudes. Dan hates them, right?
Just men?
The guys that his mom was with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was too young to, like, really, really see it, but he sees what happened, the effect that it had on his mother and Deb. So, like, he's a little more hip to patriarchy. He's a little bit more, and he's a little tapped into the incel community because he's a gamer. So he's grossed out by all of that. He's more woke than
I was saying we could
Deb
take it a touch deeper if we wanted, and have when the mom asks, "Did Rusk ever touch you, or did he ever harm you in any way?"
Mm-hmm.
I could say like, "No, no," and then we could have her admit that she knows that he did something to Dan. And
that's interesting because that's not ever.
He did something to Dan, and so that's why she was so okay with me getting him out of there and us leaving, is because she maybe never had proof that he did anything to me, but she maybe like walked in on something that was inappropriate with Dan, or saw one of the things. Did you ever watch the documentary Pharaoh versus Allen, the Woody Allen?
No, I mean I know all about it. I might have seen it, but I know all about it.
You have to rewatch it. Rewatch it before we do this short film.
Sure.
It is so important to watch this case and how it all came out, I think, especially in the Hollywood lens, through the Hollywood lens, but watch it. One of the things that they talked about that Woody would do to them when they were babies, that Mia, that first raised an eyebrow to her, red flag, was they were putting sunscreen on the kids at the beach, and he like unnecessarily like went between the kids' butt crack and like lingered there for too long. And she was like, it just, as a mother, she was just like, that was weird. That was inappropriate. Yeah. And I'm just thinking maybe this mom knew something was up between him and the little boy. Because, I mean, it's not just little girls. This happens to little boys every day.
Well, and that would explain why, I mean, that totally sets up why
Dan would hate the guys.
He's so like woke, but like he's triggered by all of it. Like,
but he might not even remember it. He might not even know.
Right.
He might not
he
even.
Just know. Yeah. Well, no, I think he'd probably be too young, or he blocked it out, or whatever.
Right. But I got him out. Like, that's the thing, is that I got him out.
Yeah.
Of the house, and that's why the mom was okay with it. And of course she feels guilty, but at the same time, I think she might also, and this is what a lot of parents do. It's like when your kid is mature for their age, sometimes parents take that as a compliment. Like, oh, I raised such a mature child. But really, like, no, your kid should not have had to be that mature, that young. So I think maybe some of her guilt is tapered off with thinking that, oh, I raised a daughter who was strong enough. She was strong. Like, just like how he, in her mind, Rusk was okay because he put a roof over their head and he kept them alive. You know, in her mind, her daughter was strong and she raised a strong girl, and that obviously means she did something right. Because
she's a police officer. She's great.
Look at her, right. A lot of parents, a lot of people do that, where they're like, well, this happened, but I turned out okay, so everything, so she's looking at her daughter. It's like,
but you had to like really suffer to do that.
Right. And so she's looking at her daughter going, oh, look at you. You're this big time, head honcho cop now, strong woman, married to with another strong woman. Well,
and I could pepper in, and I have it a little bit already. I could pepper it, but I could amplify it. Where Dan, he's angry. Deb is trying to like, don't be, just chill out. You're okay. You're okay.
Right.
So there's a little bit of tension there, and Deb doesn't really know where that's from. And if Lucille brings that up in confidence to Deb, then she'll be able to not categorize it, but like
Yeah.
lines maybe,
Uh-huh.
but like look at Dan a different way and be like, oh,
Yep.
now I realize.
It's like
okay,
that.
I didn't
that
know
thing
that before.
was always there that she probably could
Yeah.
never put her finger on. It's like, oh, because maybe when her mom first asks her about Rusk, it's like, what?
Mm.
Like that was really not what. Like she knew he was kind of creepy, but like so were a lot of men. I think that's the other thing is that when you grow up in such a patriarchal environment, which we all do, but when you grow up in an environment where men are just constantly being creepy to you and just constantly being that way, you just accept it. You just accept that.
It
That's
is
how men
funny
are.
because I was just thinking of if we did like no, I don't want to do flashbacks, but if we did do a real flashback, like I was just thinking of scenes that it could be to represent that. Is like it is funny that with little kids and little girls, whatever, they never like women don't put the kids on their laps as much as like men do. And maybe that's because women have smaller frames or something. Maybe that's the excuse. But like if you think about it, that's not really.
Yeah.
I don't
Go
know.
over there and
I
sit
don't know if
on
there's anything
so-and-so's
there.
lap. Well, it's a weird thing because I know when I was little, I felt very weirded out and very creeped out by so many men. And I mean, that's men in my family, men in my... And the thing is, maybe they weren't being creepy. Maybe they had no intention of being creepy at all. But it is the accepted way that men are able to talk to a little girl. And I remember thinking, I'm like 6. What are you talking about? Like when they'd say something like, oh, you sure are you're gonna drive them boys crazy someday.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm fucking 6, and it's like, I don't want to drive boys crazy someday. What are you talking about? Like that's...
Well, and also it's weird because that is a very common refrain. Like, what are you seeing in this 6-year-old that makes you think that?
Exactly.
Like, why does your brain even go there?
Women do it to little boys too. Oh,
yeah,
he's gonna be a lady killer.
Yeah,
Have you watched that? Oh my god! If you have not watched this stand-up special by oh my god, what is her name? Jenna. Oh my god, I'm forgetting her name. It's on Peacock.
Okay, I don't have Peacock.
You do?
So I haven't watched it. No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. It's called Lady Killer. If you can find it anyway. But Jenna Friedman.
Okay.
Lady Killer. I think it's one of the most poignant. The whole set it's quite depressing because it's all about women. And she's very pregnant while she's giving the special. She's extremely pregnant, which colors the whole thing. She does like 20 minutes on abortion. And it's incredible. And she jokes about how she's not getting the laughs that she's blonde. She's like blonde. She looks like your like classic like Fox News reporter. Then she jokes about how the Republicans that are in the room had no idea. They just saw the poster and were like, "Oh, she looks like someone we'd like." So here you are.
Should be safe.
Like, yeah. Sorry, you got me.
That's funny.
But she's very liberal and just very brilliant writer. She was a writer for The Daily Show when Jon Stewart was there for years and years. She's just brilliant.
He's coming back next week.
I know. I'm so excited.
Okay. Anyway.
But yeah. Anyway. So my what was I saying? Fuck.
Lady Killer.
Oh yeah. She makes
this.
She talks about how men like, and she says, why is it Lady Killer? Why do you want to kill the ladies? Why is it Lady Killer?
Where does that come from?
She talks about how violence towards women is programmed into men from a very young age. And she talks about how it starts from that phrase, how you're going to be a lady killer. And she builds it up from that point. But I think inversely, for girls, it's the same. That mentality of you are there to serve men's wants and needs and desires from a very young age is implanted in us. And from the time that I can remember, I was creeped out by men, boys even, who were older. Like, it was just the way that boys and men thought that they could talk about us or to us. And not just that no one would do anything about it, but just not that it was even bad, not that it was even wrong, or that there was even anything to blink at. And that's why all this stuff about, oh, you're so woke,
Mm-hmm.
is a negative thing now, is because it's not that, no, we're not just so woke. Like, these are things that we have never been able to talk about, that we have never been able to say. And if I had, it's just proving the point. If I had said anything about it back then, if anyone had even brought up that would be a negative thing, that for a man to say, oh, you're going to drive the boys crazy someday. If anyone were to say, hey, don't say that to her in that moment.
It's a weird thing to say, bro.
But that would have been a whole, like,
Yeah.
that person would have been the one who was pointed at
Yeah.
to be weird by even
Yeah.
commenting that would be a strange thing to say to a little girl.
Oh, I don't mean anything by it.
Yeah,
What
Like,
are you
it's just
insinuating?
Are you saying she's not beautiful? Are you saying this little girl's not beautiful? I mean, I used to get it all the time. Oh my God, she's so beautiful. And it'd be like, okay, that's nice, but no little girl wants to just hear how pleasing she is for you to look at. Like, I remember thinking, like, okay, like, enough. Like, it was very strange. And you grow up with that, though. Like, I remember hearing, I remember, guys around me talking about how, one of the guys that I was was in my circle of friends. He was a few years older than me, but he would talk about how he would call other girls on the cover of magazines like hot and stuff, like around his girlfriend. And he would say stuff like, it makes him try harder, bro. It makes him try harder.
Oh.
You gotta, yeah. Falling in line with like the movement of like the Andrew Tate stuff.
Sure.
It's always been there. It's always been the mentality. It's just now there's a platform, these social media platforms where they can
It's so
spread.
funny because I always heard, you see that kind of depiction in pop culture and people talk about it, and especially nowadays. But like, my experience growing up was so much nerdier and more wholesome than that, because like I literally, like, my high school friends were all like the artsy kids or the film nerd. Like, when
mine were artsy film nerds.
I know yours too. Yeah,
different.
But,
I mean,
like,
it's a different thing. But I mean, yeah, this was a kid who was an actor. But I mean, we were all in the same circle of kids who were.
I just never heard any of that kind of stuff from any of my guy friends. But it also is kind of funny because like the same like 5 friends that I had in high school that were all, my actual friends that I would socialize with, the ones that were in my movie class.
Yeah.
We all went to the same college, so we still, like, it was just like from college to high school, it was the same thing. We were still making movies, but all those kids were like they joined. We went to UNT. They joined the UNT Christian fraternity because they were all just like sweet little nothing boys, and there was me, absolutely the last thing from Christian, but like I still had the same, like, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't party, like we just watched
ethics
movies
and morals, but not the same. Yeah
from a different perspective, for a different reason. But it is funny because I just never ever experienced all that.
Well, I had a very diverse experience because my group of friends was so everybody was just came from different backgrounds, different types of families. I had friends that were, once I moved here to LA, my whole world opened up. And I was friends with everyone whose family. I had friends that had Buddhist families from Colorado, from in the hippie communities of Boulder. I had friends that were a lot of friends from Texas, a lot of people from Florida. I had friends from the UK. I had friends from all over. I mean, there were literally everywhere kids were coming here. And we all had this thing in common, that we were all actors. And so it was like I did have I'm so grateful for my exposure to so many different types of families and kids growing up because of that, because of where we lived. But the thing was, it was like growing up with even all of those kids from all those different parts of the country and all those different the early 2000s were not nice to teenage girls
I mean, even
the
just
sense
pop
of
culture.
just not
Yeah.
right. But the boys fed off of what pop culture was feeding them too. Pop culture was telling them this is how girls want you to. I mean, that was every teen comedy you watch. It's
Well,
like,
so this is such. I had such a weird. It's interesting that I'm the person that I am these days because like those teen comedies, I thought they were so dumb that I didn't watch any of it. Like I was like, they're just making like I couldn't. I couldn't watch like South Park because like it so much of it was just vulgarity and that was the joke.
right.
And I was like, I want something deeper than that. So you
Yeah.
know, it's just wouldn't I'd be watching The Fountain or like or like The Matrix or something.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah. Oh
like,
well,
just
yeah.
digging into stuff that was like I just didn't care
sure.
about
I mean,
any of that juvenile
said,
stuff.
all of my friends we were all like my what we were talking about, what we were into was there was
Right.
like my group of friends was very like I had a huge wide group of people that I knew and hung out with, but then within that group of people there were my little groups.
That's interesting.
And I had my little film group of friends that were like my people who we were all just into things, movies and music that were way beyond our years, and things that most people would be like, how old are you, like how do you even know about these things. There was that group of friends, and then there was my other group of friends who were like the ones whose parents tried to give them a normal life by keeping them in public school here in Burbank. And those were the kids that I would still for some reason like try to fit in with. But at the same time it was really stressful because like they were so much more into like material things and like pop culture things that like I was into, but at the same time like I felt like I was having to like try really hard to like keep up with what was cool in that group of friends.
And I wonder where it comes from because like when I'm an only child, so like when I grew up, I had a healthy, and that's probably where you get it too, is like a healthy ability to just be my own best friend and just hang out by myself for as long as I needed to. Right. So like for whatever reason, I never felt the peer pressure to like want to have this big group of friends or like get into I still to this day have never seen American Pie because it just seemed vulgar and like gross. These days I could probably see the humor part of it, but like when it came out, especially all of my friends were like, even when like Borat came out when I was in college, the parts that a lot of the people that were gravitating towards, of course I was watching the Ali G show like
me too.
when I was like when I was a kid. Ali G
like show was one of the most brilliant things to me ever.
Yeah, I know. Like the parts that I was gravitating towards was the satire on everything, but
exactly
all of the guys were making fun of the vulgar parts of it, and I'm like, this isn't. That's I don't care about it. So it's so funny that I don't. I was when I was a kid, I just didn't care about that peer pressure thing. I was like, well, that thing that you're saying or doing or that movie that you're quoting makes me uncomfortable. So I'm not going to be your friend. I'm going to go do my own thing. I don't care about that.
Well, having to be immersed in it and literally being a person that people thought of like you could be the next Britney Spears. Like there is, you can't really, I couldn't really separate myself from it because I was in it. It's like you're in that industry. You're in that. You are the pop culture. So it was kind of like it wasn't a separate thing to me. Like I had, but that was what the cognitive dissonance was for me, was that I was not that type of person. Like I could sing and dance and I could act and do all the stuff that all the kids were doing, and I love to do it. I love to perform. It was like musical theater, all of it. I love every aspect of performing. But it was like the Disney, it was like I started having a really hard time with my career and the idea of it when, like, there's a million things I know if my parents ever, I've said this to them, we've had this conversation, but it's like, I don't blame them for any of this, but it is something that I just wish I would have been pushed more in the department of, like, filmmaking, directing, writing, camera operating, that sort of stuff, because I was very disenchanted with the whole, like, you become like a Hillary Duff type.
Right.
Like, that was just not what I wanted at all. But that did not register with my mom in any. It was like, how could you not want that? My mom was like, you wouldn't want your own clothing line? You don't want to have a $5 million home in Toluca Lake? You don't want, like, all. And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, that all sounds like, sure, but no, that is not what I want. Like,
in my book about generations, they talk about how the generation Gen X, but also like late boomers, or I guess the tail end of boomers, the ones that were growing up in the 80s and late 70s, their priorities changed. They did surveys from like several generations as they were graduating high school, like, what are your goals going into the real world? And usually it was like the boomers, the early boomers and the generations before that, it was like, oh, I want some kids. I really want to, it was like community based.
Yeah.
I want to build like a nice community and like be part of the friendly neighbor and all this stuff.
Yeah.
In the 70s and 80s, once the greed is good generation started coming along, it was all about, oh, well, I want a couple of mansions. I want a yacht. I want the fastest sports car. None of it was community based. None of it was
luxury. Like, what can I have for myself? Yeah.
And millennial, and they noticed that trend ticking backwards and being a lot more when millennials came along. It was a lot more about, I want to connect with my fellow human beings, and I want to do, and I still want progress with myself. But it's not surprising that your mom was like, don't you want your own perfume line? Don't you want a mansion? Don't you want this? And it's like, well, I just want to be a good person.
Right. And I had this weird, I did sort of, and I realized at the time, which is what I think a lot of young artists do, and privileged artists, like kids, like for me, like I did not grow up struggling. I did not grow up, and I was sort of jealous, and this is going to sound so privileged, and I hate this. I hate this so much.
Come on, white girl.
I hate it. But this is just the facts. Growing up, I was sort of jealous of my friends who did grow up struggling because I felt like they understood. I truly knew that I did not fundamentally understand what it meant to really want something so bad that you would fight for it, and you would, like, my acting career to me was just handed to me. And I knew that I was good and what I was doing. Like, I knew that, like, I never had that thing. Like I had I was in a relationship with a guy, my first, like, boyfriend, God. And he wanted it because he had never, like, he was extremely privileged as far as just, like, his regular life goes. But as far as, like, not being able to, his parents not just dropping everything that they had and gave their whole life to his acting career. So when he came to LA, when I introduced him to my agent and manager and everybody, when he came out from Texas, he wanted it. He wanted it so bad. And, like, he could, like,
he had the drive.
Yeah. And it was like, I didn't have that. And I romanticized this idea of struggling. And I wanted more than anything in the whole world for me to just like, and that's when I, at 21, I like, had to like separate myself from my parents, and kind of, I wanted to struggle. Like I wanted to, like I'd had friends who were like sleeping in their cars, and really not good situations. Like you would not wish their situations on anyone.
Oh, that especially in LA, that's the classic romanticizing of
But that's
that
like
lifestyle.
what I wanted. Like I had this whole thing in my head where like I would never vocalize this, but I wanted to like sleep in my car and couch surf and like live the struggling artist life, because I thought that would actually give me some credibility.
They actually talk about that on Pete Holmes' show Crashing, where he's because it's it's the beginning of his stand-up career, so
Right.
he's just like, all right, well, I got to start from the bottom. I got to work all these crappy clubs, and I got to stand out on the corner and hand out leaflets for my chance to get on the 5 minutes at the end of the, just really, really struggling.
Yeah.
And he meets other comedians, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm doing the barking thing. I'm just that's what you got to do. He's romanticizing it, and they're like, you could just like me. We could just go over to the. We could go to this other place, and
if you want.
I'm not saying I'll give you anything, but like it's better over here. This guy's just taking advantage of you.
Right. And that's
like
the thing.
It doesn't have to. You shouldn't You don't have to be struggling.
Exactly.
You don't have to give up your whole marriage because of this. You could. You could just.
You could have both. It's not.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was like, I didn't want to have my mommy and daddy pay for me, because my parents were saying, "Do you want to go to film school? You can go to film school. Like you can. We'll pay for you to go to film school." And I was like, "No, I'm a real artist. They go to film school. All those little stupid film school kids, they all think they're gonna be the next Steven Spielberg, and none of them, like I was just so anti. I did not want to be one of those stupid dumb kids, and I it was like I thought that I was gonna do it the cool way.
Right. Such a hipster.
Yeah, God, and it's like.
Now, okay, so what's interesting about this conversation is struggle is real, and you do get valuable life skills, and it is hard and miserable and terrible. And I wouldn't want any, like, if anybody could just like get the job without going through that, you should do that. Right. Speaking as someone who grew up in a self-employed family my entire career, my dad called me the other day because he was stressed out about, we don't know where the next gig is, and we've since gotten gigs, but like he's stressed out, and he's 62 years old. Like he doesn't know where the next thing is going to come from.
I know.
And I'm like, why would you want why would you ever sign up for something like this? I never went without food or anything, but like, man, it was a lot of pancakes and grilled cheese, and I was lucky that my dad had skills that like restaurants wanted to do signs and whatever, because we could always eat. And I never was privy to when the bills are due, or like if we were behind on whatever, this or that. But like, I know that struggle was real, because like, absolutely, after I left, I've seen it, and I know that we weren't. He's lucky. I mean, they offered to pay me to go to college, but like, for one, I was a bad student.
Yeah.
And like, we tried it for a couple of years, and I know that they were like taking out loans and like just terrible, terrible decisions.
Right.
All because. And, like, it's just nothing that you should be romanticized.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
But there's this, and it's still there, this artist struggle, this artist, like...
And anyone that's gone through that will tell you what I'm saying is, like, it sucks. You do learn some things, but I would never suggest doing that.
No, but I do think a lot of other artists unintentionally... don't give credibility to people who didn't struggle.
Yeah, that's true. And
I think we sort of perpetuate that romanticism without knowing it, because we tend to poo-poo people who may have had a privileged life or may have had parents who supported them. And because I get a lot of people that say like, oh, Reagan, like, you don't even know because you had, you know, my career, like I've like you never know what somebody's been through until you know.
There was the whole conversation a couple months ago. Everyone was freaking out about Nepo babies.
Right.
And I'm like, I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there was a Nepo, like, electrician or something, or like a carpenter that's been
which happens all the time.
The skills have been passed down through generations, and it's like, man, that they are great carpenters.
Right.
You know, good.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for making it here to another episode of this podcast where Cameron and I are writing this movie. It turned into a podcast because Cameron and I have started just recording our writing sessions during the process of writing this tale of patriarchy and misogyny and all the horrors that those things entail. It's a lot, it's heavy, but we're really digging into some deep stuff, and we feel like it's really important, and we feel like people will really want to see this. And I'm now saying things that I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I just got off work a little bit ago. I'm extremely tired. My brain is no longer firing on all cylinders. So I know there's not a lot of you out there watching this as of now, but we're gonna change that. What am I doing? Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching and listening to us and being interested and caring. And if you are really interested, click the link in the description. Smash the like button, subscribe, click the QR code, get in there. Just get in there and support us. And this vision that we have for this movie that we are very passionate about and very excited about. And Cameron and I have worked together before on other projects, other things. We've got a short film coming up that we're doing that we're really excited about too. Okay, I'm saying things that don't matter. Yeah, it happens all the time. Like Eric is a perfect like combination of both his mom and his dad's skills passed on to him. His mom was in computers and stuff like that, and his dad was an electrician, always tinkering with,
interesting
stuff. And so Eric naturally, picked up those things. And so it's kind of like, I always see like what's his name? Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son.
Yeah.
But their son, I forget what his name is. But anyway, he's really great. He's on The Boys, and he's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I know. He's a tall guy.
Yeah. Tall. He looks just like a perfect combination of both of them put together. And he's a great actor. I think, honestly, like actors like him, there's so many of them out there right now. They're really good. They look great. It's like, of course they're going to do what their parents, just like you said, it's like, not only is it genetically passed on that, just that ability to do what they do, but yeah, they've grown up in it. It's like, I don't know what Kylie's going to end up doing someday. She has no idea really what she's been very interested in photography and whatnot. but it's almost like here in LA, a lot of people growing up here in this town, regardless of what their parents did for a living or whatever, a lot of people find themselves working in the industry, on sets, on crew, behind the scenes, in some way, shape, or form, in some capacity, working in the industry, because this is the town where you
Right.
work in that industry. It's like, people, do you not realize that that's just like a normal, if you're in that environment, if
Yeah.
that's what you're around, that is a lot of times what you're
Right.
gonna end up doing. I mean, come on, I don't know if Kylie, I could totally see Kylie doing something in the industry, not whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera. I don't think she has the desire to be in front of a camera,
Right.
ever. But
But
who
she could
knows?
be an on-set photographer or like,
Anything. I think,
whatever.
yeah. I even think she's creatively, like, I think she could. I think she could do a lot of things.
And why shouldn't she?
Yeah.
If she.
But that's
why?
the thing, is that once you're in this town and you know people and you meet people
Mm-hmm.
and you, I mean, a lot of my friends that I grew up with that were not actors or had nothing to do with the industry are now gaffers and,
Right.
editors, or, they do something in the industry. They're a part of some union, and they're working all the time, and they work really hard. That's the thing, is that this industry is full of so many people who their parents generationally
Right.
worked on sets as crews, as stunt
Right.
people, there's just so many people, when it comes to what it takes to make a movie, make a TV show, and they're all here, and it's like the Nepo baby stuff. It's like it is kind of frustrating, because it's like, of course, the only thing that's frustrating about it to me is when the Nepo babies, or when their parents don't really acknowledge that.
Yeah, they had the privilege.
Yeah, and that of course it's easier for you.
Yeah.
I don't care if you change your name or if you
Mm-hmm.
get all the training. Like, you wouldn't have been able to get all that training if your
Right.
mom wasn't, Meg
Yeah,
Ryan.
of course.
You wouldn't be able to get in the doors that you were able to get into if they didn't know who your parents were. Like, that's
Right.
just part of it. And if it comes down, like, perfect example was us doing our casting. Well, I don't know if we want to talk about this either, but for the short film, where it's like, you pick who you're gonna pick because of certain things that come into play. And when casting is looking at a full list of, okay, we've got this girl, man, what a powerhouse.
Well,
actress.
these people are all really good, but this person's extra enthusiastic about being part of the project. It's
Right.
not just
Right.
the skills.
Exactly.
There's also another
Right.
element to it,
Uh-huh.
and that's okay.
But it's also like, if you're looking at it, it's like, well, okay, if I'm a showrunner for this big
Right.
TV show on new series, 10-episode deal, and we're going to
Right.
cast the lead series regular role. We've got, say it's freaking, like, Selma Hayek's daughter. I don't even know
Right.
if she has a daughter. Selma Hayek's daughter, Shelby Hayek. Or, freaking Camila Gonzalez
Right.
from Kansas, who nobody knows who she is, but God, is she better than Shelby Hayek.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Shelby Hayek's name is just going to get us so much more views, and so they end up going with the name,
Right.
just because, and that's just. That's part of it, because there are some shows that do cast purely on like those shows where people go, oh my God, I loved this show. It was so good, but it only lasted for 1 or 2 seasons and then it got canceled. Why?
Right. Right.
And it's like, well, because they because they cast for the talent. It's a great
Right.
show. It's got so many great actors, but there was no draw. Nobody watched the show because there was
Because
no name.
people love celebrity. In the ideal world, nobody would care about celebrity. And
Right.
we do. The world is moving slightly more towards
Yeah.
that. I mean, Squid Game was huge because it was a concept, and
Exactly.
nobody over here knew who any of those people were.
Absolutely
So
not.
like, and Stranger Things, nobody knew who those people were. Like,
Very
Winona Ryder was the biggest name of the whole thing,
Yep.
and nobody,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we are slowly getting more and more towards that.
Sure,
But no,
yeah.
you're totally right. I mean, that is... But to not acknowledge that exists is
Right.
why the Nepo baby thing
Right.
became so, like, talked about. Okay, so, Reagan, none of this has anything to do with anything.
No, it doesn't. We have gone way, way,
What
way
I
off.
want to do right now, there's two things left, and then we'll call it quits.
Okay.
Until, who knows. I have a cold open for this script that I want you to read cold, like a cold open. I want you to read it, not to camera, just read it for the first time.
Okay.
Because it hits hard.
Yeah.
Bam. Yeah. And and I'll preface this with the whole thing is from the perspective of the home video camera obscura. So, like, it's going to look like it's an old movie from the 60s.
Okay.
The whole intro. With the dirt and grime and everything. So
Is it in this script? It's the cold open that's at the beginning.
Yeah, it's the very, very beginning. I meant read this out aloud.
Okay.
If I didn't say.
Okay. And interior Bowen living room, home video, 1963 morning. A 7-year-old boy, Scotty Bowen, opens a brightly colored, long birthday present. His
You'll
father's
understand here.
yeah. His father, Stephen, is filming on his 8mm home film camera. Scotty slides the lid off the box and reveals the family rifle. He smiles and looks up at the camera with excitement. Scene 2, exterior woods, home video, 1963. Moments later, Steve has set the camera down as he shows Scotty how to hold the gun and pull the trigger. The rifle is rested on a table, pointed at something 200 feet in front of them. Steve runs over, picks up the camera before signing to the anxious boy a countdown. Scotty shoots and smiles. He sets the gun down and raises his hands in victory. The footage gets a little shaky from the adoring father's joy. Steve pans the camera over to the target. There are 2 nude women. Nice. One strung up by her hands and the other standing by to clean the wounds. The women look at each other and smile.
It's not subtle.
No. No, it's not. But
it might be a little too on the nose, but okay, so here's what I'm thinking. You got the rifle. I was trying to think, what's the classic, like, Southern pride of, like, a generational, like, manly thing? Okay, it's a rifle. They're hunting. That's such a manly, I'm going to teach my boy how to be a man by shooting a thing.
Right.
And, and that's fine. And it goes, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
The thing with the women, obviously, we're watching the film,
right?
And this is the haunted film, the film that they discover later. They're trying to kill these women. They're trying to they're trying to use these women as target practice and be the man, of the family. It might be not. I'm fine with taking them out. I just don't know. It needs to represent. This is a generational patriarch that is toxic and scary. What are they doing that represents that? And from a horror movie, that's what I came up with.
Yeah. No, I mean it's like it's very. No, I love it because I love shit like this, but.
It hits hard in the first 2 minutes of the movie, so I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like, because I know I saw your message earlier about how it's hard not to want to write the supernatural stuff into this thing. And that's the thing, is that are we fully committing to... Because if we are, I'm down. That's totally fine with me. If we're going to actually go supernatural, this, it's actually haunted footage.
Well, so the footage itself, I mean, I think that's the only place where it can exist. The crime thriller element that's happening in the real world, that is the real world. and because she's experiencing or seeing patriarchy for the first time, it feels like she's seeing this surreality that she's witnessing through the lens. You know, she's it feels like,
so that's sort of how I've looked at it, is that like everything that sort of happens on film is really just like almost like her dreams. Like it's almost like that's just sort of, it's a symbolic representation of her psyche and sort of like where she is at in her mind, in
her journey
soul.
at least.
Yeah,
for sure. That's what I was going for, and that's what I still want to go for. This is, if we were to place it, it would probably be, I don't know, it would maybe be in the montage of when she discovers the girls. Maybe the two nude women are the women that die at the end of the movie. The ones that she discovers. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool. That would be a good callback.
But yeah, I mean, it's foreshadowing, obviously. But the whole thing is surreal. It is a representation. It's not literally...
Right.
It's not literal.
The film that actually is like...
The literal part is what they recorded on her phone. It is just a kid's birthday party, you know, and there's, you know, the guys there, and, you know, it's just a wholesome, in quotes. But there's... I mean, it's what we were talking about. It's that these people might not be intentionally malicious or anything. It's just the culture that they're playing into is.
Right, and it's yeah, I think that in telling this story, there's sort of a you know, like all these conversations we've been having, you know, it's like they don't necessarily tie into the storyline per se, but I think our millennial generational understanding of these concepts of the patriarchy and like sort of what it is to us in our lives, I think this story is sort of like, and Deb's experience and everything, I think is sort of like another symbol sort of like what our generation is kind of collectively like. I think because a lot of us feel like we grew up in like a really like edgy, like the 90s were so edgy and progressive and so like be who you are and like, like freaks are cool and like all that sort of, you know, it was like when I was little, like really really little, I was into like, you know, bands. Like I was like Rancid was one of my, like I just thought the guys from Rancid were like super hot, and like I was like really little though, like most kids my age like weren't thinking about stuff like that,
but still I mean the culture was, let's be weird for the sake of being weird, and you know, like, be yourself, and you know, and that's great, but
dye your hair pink and like be crazy mohawks and like all that stuff was like kind of coming to a point where it was like cool and okay for like kids to, you know, like be that way and stuff. And so I think, but at the same time, you know, like kids were still heavily made fun of for being slightly effeminate if they were a boy, and,
for sure,
you know, it was like there were just so many messages that went against be yourself and be who you are, and it was like we got all that, but at the same time, like, you know, racial and you know, homophobic and xenophobic.
Women need to be as thin as possible.
Oh,
That was the
other thing I was going to say about the early 2000s and being a girl, is just the image, body shaming, our bodies being so heavily scrutinized, which is every generation, but ours was like, wear as little clothes as possible. And that's totally normal and totally okay. In fact, that's like female empowerment. Like I am still very confused to this day on like, I mean, really, I guess female empowerment is doing whatever the fuck you want. But like a woman going out dressed in scantily clad clothes, men telling her that she needs to cover up, you know, so it's like when a woman goes out dressed like that, sometimes that is a representation of her her feminine power.
Is she owning it, or is she playing into the patriarchy?
Exactly.
Or is she empowering herself? Or
exactly.
Is, you know.
So it's like no
what's
matter
the statement
what we do,
she's making?
right? No matter
Yeah.
what we do, someone can take whatever we're doing and make up their own, you know, reason. Like
Or
it's like
someone that's like dressed real, baggy clothes or whatever.
modestly, yeah. It's like
Modestly is like, well, you should own who you are. If you have a nice body, or
That's-
even
yeah.
if you don't have a nice body, like you
Right.
should wear.
if you,
whatever.
whatever you yeah show yourself no matter what. Don't be
Yeah.
ashamed of your body. And that's the thing with raising a teenage girl is it's like there's this like weird fine line between like what message are you sending them. It's like if she walks out of the house dressed, of course it's Eric's inclination to go, hey, what are you wearing, like don't dress like that.
Sure.
But then at the same time it's like, don't shame her for
Right.
wearing what she wants to wear. If she wants to dress like that, then let her dress like that. It's like, but she's at the age now where when she goes outside dressed a certain way, she gets catcalled by grown-ass men.
Sure.
And it's like, but at the same time, that's her, I can't protect her from that.
And some women lap that up.
No, yeah.
They're
If
like, I
that's-
am sexy.
Yeah.
You should. I should be.
If they
getting that
don't
kind
get
of attention.
catcalled, then they get offended. It's
Yeah.
like, I get it. So it's like, and it's just a very strange messages that girls are sent on
Yeah.
a daily basis. And now she's at that age where it's happening, and it's like, but she wants to dress if she wants to be how
Right.
she feels cute, and that's what she wants to
Right.
wear. And I'm not saying like deal with it. That's what's going to happen. It shouldn't happen. Men should not be, I feel
Right.
like, catcalling women
Right.
just walking down the street, because what's it going to get you anyway? Like, I've never really understood catcalling. Like, are you going to stop the car and turn around and come talk to me? Like, what's the point,
What's the end goal? Yeah, I don't know.
like just to let me know that you.
But what's interesting is this is romanticizing the past because, but the assumption, the reason men are like, will defend catcalling or will defend whatever is because they're like, well, it's innocent. They're not going to harm the person.
Right, it's not
or
hurting
anything.
anyone.
It's not hurting anyone, and
Right.
that's that is probably true for 95% of the people that do it. However, that 5%,
Right.
and you can't, when you're a woman, you can't. Let me mansplain it to you.
and it's
when you're a woman, you don't know the difference. So
Right.
it's like,
And when
you
the
can't-
thing is, it just lets you know that it's like I'm a person. We're all human beings who have eyeballs. Even when I see a woman who's dressed
Right.
like she's beautiful, I mean, you see women who just, yeah, you're gonna stop and look at them. Me and Kylie, I'm so big on complimenting people that don't strangers all the time. I was, you look beautiful. Like, oh my god, your makeup is incredible. I do this all the time. People love to be complimented. Women, everybody, men love. I
Yeah,
tell men
of
all
course.
the time, like, you look very handsome today. I'll say that, and it's like, it's amazing how people just, that you can tell that they just would have never imagined that someone was going to compliment them. It's different than catcalling. It's like catcalling.
well, yeah, of course.
Catcalling is like, it's like, and especially to like Kylie, who's a 14-year-old girl, and this is now
Yeah,
just
ugh.
starting to happen to her. It's like letting women know that you were just thinking about them in a way that it feels violated. You feel violated because you feel like I did not give consent
and it's
for you to think about me
specifically
like
sexual
that.
too. Yeah.
Right. It almost feels like, you're being violated because they were thinking about you in an inappropriate way that you
Right.
did not intend.
And
for
here's
that.
the weird thing. Extra weird. Is, I mean, maybe I'm just, I just have a better eye or something, but like, if there's like a 14, 15-year-old, I know that they're a teenage. Like, they don't.
You can tell, man. Like you can
You can tell.
Like you can freaking tell. It's not like, yeah, like you
It's
can't
not
say,
like she has the body type of like a 25-year-old,
Right.
dancer or something.
Exactly.
Figure
Like, come on.
skater or something. Like,
and yeah, and I mean, it's like, the thing is, like, getting back to this stuff, it's like for a woman to grow up is like, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you look like, you have been sexualized in some way by someone at some point. It has happened. And whether or not, I mean, yeah, we're all human beings. We're all sexual creatures for the most part. I know not all of us are, but I mean, there's 8 billion how many people on this earth now, and we all know the only way more people get
people
here
be boinking.
More people getting it on. So I mean, it's like we all know that's, you know, but it's like the older we get as a civilization, the older we get as a society, the more we are supposed to progress and learn from our mistakes and our past. And you know, I think that the idea of the patriarchy has been so made fun of and so you know, thought of as a joke when you talk about, you know, like since the 70s, women's lib and all this stuff, you know, it's like the patriarchy, you know. But when it comes down to it, overarching the racial aspects of things, overarching everything is the pretty much, unless you are a man, there is. All right, hold on, my earbuds just died. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. That's how you know we've been doing this for a very long time.
It's been a minute.
Hold on.
Actually, I'm gonna take a pee break.
Yeah, actually, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So my audio is still being recorded through this, but I'm just listening to you through my phone now. But yeah, I'm gonna go take a break.
All right. Commercial break.
BRB. Thank you so much for being here with us and listening and being interested and caring about our little podcast. And go ahead and hit the link in the description, hit the QR code, subscribe. And I hate to ask for money, but it's going to take some to make this movie. And if you want to give us a little hand, every little bit counts. We don't need much, relatively speaking, to make this movie. Anyway, thank you.
To it, and it makes me almost mad that other movies in this kind of genre don't go the extra mile to have like human moments in it as well. It's just like, well, what's the edgiest thing we can do or whatever. It's like it doesn't cost anything to write, you know, human characters, so why not?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like, I think that stories like this, it's almost like I've always kind of wished that there was more of a blend between, like, because I'm a sucker for the, you know, true crime, like, you know, Forensic Files and all those shows, like, you know, those horrible shows that are just like have horrible like narration and stuff. But I always wanted there to be like a marriage somehow between those types of shows and then, like, you know, like you're like a narrative, like a True Detective or something like that, and then like your sort of like a This Is Us, or like, so, you know, something that like actually is like about people, like something that's like actually about the stories of generations of people. That's what that's why This Is Us. But like,
well, it's like, because you'll have like most crime thriller or like true crime or detective stories or whatever, or horror movies especially, don't have any depth usually, but like, so usually they'll be like, oh well, it's a cop and he's a drunk,
Right.
And he's got maybe like a kid that he doesn't talk to.
Right. Right.
And by the end of it, he's talking to his kid. And
Yeah.
that's about it.
Right. Right.
You know,
Exactly.
It's not really got the weight that I
Right.
would like to see, especially in something that's so emotionally fueled, like crime and people suffering and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's why.
there's so much to explore.
Yeah. That's like why I think like with the movie Seven, you know, like I think. You know, they really didn't get into Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's story very much, but they got into it enough to where when you found her head, what's in the box, and finding her head in the box is like one of the most iconic, memorable, legendary moments in like, you know, film history, especially for psychological thrillers. But it was because they were so keen in writing that the little relationship bit that they did right in that movie.
Yeah, literally, like the only things that they have are when Morgan Freeman comes over to Brad Pitt and they're like, Brad is hanging out with the dogs and Gwyneth, they're making drinks. It's like really nice.
But if
There's
they
the
didn't
dinner
have any
scene
of
with
that
the
in
train.
there, Seven would not have been the movie that it
not at
was
all.
if it didn't have those little human. Those are what made that
sure.
movie
For
what
sure.
it was. And even when I was a kid, when I first saw that movie, I was hooked. I probably watched that movie on repeat for so long because it was, in my opinion, one of just the most brilliant ways to write a psychological thriller, because I had never seen really a psychological thriller that had those little moments in there that really made you care about those people and you know, and it didn't take much, you know, it didn't take much. And that's the thing, is that, you know, it doesn't take much, because we are all that's why we love movies, that's why we love stories, is because we want to feel, we want to connect with these other people, and we want that to resonate with ourselves, and
yeah, a lot of the times we'll get so far away from that and it's purely entertainment, or it's like intellectual stimulation, which is great.
Yeah.
As a society, we need that kind of escapism, and a lot of the times we'll go more in that arena because of whatever's happening in the world. But then something hits you that has the real human flavor, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's really what we're all here for.
Right.
Like, the other stuff is fun, and I got carried away with the other stuff.
Yeah.
But this is really the good stuff.
Yeah, I think you know, I think as artists, obviously, someone said something about how LA isn't, the reason LA sucks is because, which I don't agree with this statement, just I'll put that out there, but they said this, because I hate so much negativity and cynicism being talked about Los Angeles. Like, honestly, like, yeah, there's so many things you can say, of course, but they said that LA isn't a city of artists, and it's a city where art comes to be commercialized. And to be made a business, to make money off of art. That's what LA is. Which, I mean, on one hand is a true statement. Yeah, I mean, artists come here to make a living off of what they do, off of their art. Yeah, that's
is
true.
technically a business.
Right, which is true. But at the same time, like, I love living in LA. I have some friends who are thinking about moving here, and I went out to lunch with them recently, and he was like, so are you happy here? And I was like, oh, I'm so happy here. And he was like, why? And he was like, sell me on LA, because I don't get it. And, you know, it's like, in my opinion, I don't know how I have to sell anybody on LA. If you're an actor, if you're an artist, if you're anybody who is trying to make your living doing this, then you shouldn't. I wouldn't even have to think twice as to why you should want to live in LA. Yeah, it's expensive and like all that stuff, but I love living here because I do have so many people around me who are doing what I'm doing, and I don't have to explain myself to people, and having crazy big dreams and having crazy big ideas here is not unheard of, and nobody looks at you funny for saying, I have an idea for a TV show. You know, you go anywhere else
Right.
and they're like, oh, okay, I make a
Right.
TV show. But it's like, no, like, people take you seriously and don't, like, question you when you say that here. You know, they're like, cool, make your TV show. Sounds great. I hope you do it. You know, I can't wait to see it. Like, that's, you know. But as far as, like, being an actor and doing it and, you know, hearing what I've heard my whole life, and it's like, as an actor, there's like, you can be anything else. It's like, I call myself an artist so much because actors are artists, but a lot of times people treat actors as if we are this other type of artist where we're more self-centered or more shallow or more vapid or more into ourselves than other types of artists. Only because we're the one that gets put on camera. And since that, the people think we must love to see ourselves and must love to watch ourselves and hear ourselves and are just obsessed with ourselves, which is just not the case. You know, it's like I always felt like I always had this desire to make it known that I was more than whatever it is that people think actors are, which I think most actors are more than that. If you're a good actor, I don't know how you couldn't be more than that.
So the stereotype of actors is that they're divas, that they are self-absorbed, they
Right.
just they love to look at themselves.
Right.
I don't know an example of an actor, like an A-lister or
Right.
anyone, where that applies.
Exactly.
Like, I don't
It's
know.
not
That
real.
might have been true in the past, but I don't know of anybody that's famous that is that.
But like even back then, like I feel like that was just like some weird stereotype that was made up by, because I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know anyone. I've never known anyone unless you're talking about like not real actor. Like if I was going to talk about anyone, that would be like the modern like influencer or the person
Right.
who
Yeah, I guess
who
so.
like doesn't have.
They're famous because they're famous.
Right. Like, I mean, sure, you could say that about, like, Paris Hilton and, like, people like that. Like, I guess, you know, but there was always just this stereotype that actors are, and for guys, too, not just women, but just that they're stupid, not very, you know, like, they have to be given things to say because, you know, they don't really have
Yeah, for
anything
sure.
going
Stand
in
on
their
this
own
mark.
heads. Right.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I always had this burning desire in me to make sure that people knew that that was not who I was, that was not what I was about. And, you know, like, I mean, there were actresses that, you know, I knew that were very shallow and, you know, but like, I mean, I guess I can. Megan Fox, for example, like she was always somebody who was just like, and she was known to just like through casting offices and stuff too, to just not be, just have a bad attitude. She was just not, you know what I mean. So there are,
But also talk about someone that was like sexualized from a young age.
Exactly, like she had her own issues
Yeah.
that, you know, I would never want any of that put on anyone. I can't imagine. But also, you know, she wasn't necessarily known as like the best, like best actress or anything. You know, so anyway.
Well, and she wasn't. Yeah, she was never presenting herself as like, look at me, a feminist icon or anything.
Right.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like I feel like I've always wanted to tell stories that I felt like were that like meant something. I didn't never want to just like we were saying, like, you know, the American Pies or like the whatever, like the movies that are purely there just for like the stupid entertainment value.
There was growing up, our generation, there was, and also like older generations too, but especially ours.
Yeah.
There was so much entertainment, full on hugely popular franchises that were just dumb. The point of them was, we are dumb and we're embracing how dumb we are.
Oh yeah. Dude, Where's My Pants?
Yeah.
Wait,
The
Dude, Where's My Car? Sorry, my friends
You're-
did it. My friends did a spoof called Dude, Where's My Pants?
Okay, well there you go.
Um,
Yeah, that was the Lego movie. That was the kind of the joke of the Lego movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Scary Movie franchise is like
I did one
the
called
idea of
Extreme
like
Movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was the point. Is like it's just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like and
Which is
it's just gonna
fine.
make people laugh. Yeah, and it's gonna make people laugh. But it's funny, and the culture embraced it.
I
of
mean,
course.
Jackass was kind of
Yeah.
like, you know.
That was another thing that I just couldn't. All my friends were into it. I just could
Yeah.
not. It creeped me out. One, to see people get hurt.
Yeah.
And two, I didn't find it funny. I found it so lowbrow. I was not. I was a little
Yeah.
hipster as a kid.
Right.
But like.
No, yeah.
It was just like I don't get anything.
It was very
out of
out
this.
my balls. Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
idiocracy, like, you know. Yeah, I mean, but when it comes to like you know, in stand-up comedy and stuff, there are a lot of there are a lot of comedians. There are a lot of. I've realized this now, just in the short period of time that I have been like immersed in the community. But a lot of comedians are so committed to comedy that literally the second you start talking about anything deep and that's when the inappropriate, this is what I think people are also missing about the whole like comedian saying you can't say anything anymore.
Right.
Part of that is because that's the only way they know how to deal with tragedy and
Right.
uncomfortable situations and conversations that should be serious. It's like, yeah, you like, it's not that you can't say anything anymore. It's that you need to learn how to have
How
be
to say it.
sincere,
Yeah.
and that not everything can be made into a joke.
Right.
And that, yeah, there are some things and sometimes that people need you to shut the fuck up and be serious for a minute. And I think that that's like a lot of comedians and a lot of that in that world, like writing something like this, doing something like for me, here's like my thing is that I've always, since I was very young, I've always known whatever it was. I got bullied a lot. Like I got made fun of for like, you know, being whatever way it was that I was when I was young. I have always been very sensitive. I have always been very in tune with emotions, feelings, people's emotions, people's feelings, and my own emotions and my own feelings. But I have also used jokes and comedy to make people feel better, to make myself feel better, and to process really heavy things. Which is sometimes a great coping mechanism, you know, because the alternative could be a lot worse.
Right.
So, you know, when I was growing up, though, even when I was like, I know when something, like sometimes a lot of times before I say like, I know this is cringy, or I know this is, or I know this is cheesy, or I know this is whatever. It's because I've always known whatever any bully or whatever anybody was going to say about whatever cheesy or real or serious
Right.
or truthful or, you know, whatever thing it was that I was going to say, it's like I knew I was always one step ahead of them. I knew what they could say to make fun of it. I knew whatever it was that they could say to, you know, it's like, so like, you know, it's like when it comes to feminism, talking about the patriarchy, talking about any of this stuff, sexual harassment, rape, you know, I mean, I remember there was a time in the 2000s, like Dane Cook and like, I'm trying to remember, there were so many comedians of this like brand back then, but it was like where there was really a conversation going around about like, are rape jokes okay? And
Right.
like literally there being like conversations about like, is it okay to joke about rape?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember back then just thinking, why do we even need to say, like, why is this even, like,
Why? Yeah.
why does this even need to be a question? Like, how is this even a conversation? I mean, I guess I'm glad we're talking about it since we need to, apparently, but, like, why should that even be a question? And, like, I know that,
Well, okay, so what's so stupid about that, and it goes back to what we were saying about catcalling, is the reason they're making those noises with their mouth is because they want to, it's like why Republicans, their entire platform is, we're just going to own the libs to get a rise out of them. Right. That's it.
Right.
They just want to be anti whatever,
it's
because
to be contrarian. It's straight up just
to be contrarian,
yes.
for sure. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, they're making rape jokes because they want to get a rise, because it's something. Yeah, it's uncomfortable and whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
But they don't realize, or didn't at the time, and I'm sure it's still out there too.
Yeah.
Is that there are so many people paying attention to that do not understand that subtlety.
Right.
So they think it's just okay to talk about that kind of
right,
and
like,
like, be casual about it.
Right. And then you have a generation of young men, young boys who think that rape is funny.
And that's what patriarchy is.
Right.
That's a prime example.
I literally remember my guy friends. And when I say friends, I mean that, like, lightly. I don't mean like they were like, but like in the circle of guys that I would hang out with, it was yes means yes and no. It was, I don't remember what it was, but somehow it would end up being them saying no means yes. Basically saying, like, if a girl says no, that means yes, or yes means maybe and no means yes, or something like that. And so I don't remember what the saying was. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember thinking, oh, that's like, I remember thinking, oh, they wouldn't, like, actually do that to a girl. Like, if it actually came down to it, they would not actually force themselves on someone if they were saying no. But then it's like, you start hearing from all the girls that would talk, and it would be like, some of the guys would even convince some of the girls that it wasn't rape because they never actually said no.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The girls later said they didn't want it, and they went through with it even though they didn't want to do it.
Right.
And then later, some girls would say, girl, that's rape. Like, if you don't want to have sex and you still have sex, that's rape. But it started this whole, like, I remember in my group of friends, like, in just the talks, amongst people, it was like this whole thing of, like, who did what to who, and who did this to so-and-so, raped her. No, he didn't really rape her because she didn't really say that, And these were all just, like, normal kids. These are just, like, teenagers, just normal teenagers who are just, like, And I just remember thinking it was so scary to me that guys were so...
oblivious, maybe?
Or just, like, not, like didn't really understand that in order to actually, like, there was just so much flippancy. Like, I had a friend who like, his first time having sex with a girl was on videotape, and one of our friends got a hold of that videotape and made copies of it and sent it out to, a whole bunch of people. And it was both of their first times, And this is a guy that this is the guy that sent out the tapes. He's doing very well for himself in the world right now. So it's just like, you think about stuff like that, and it's just like I even met someone... I met someone the other day who works for his family, and I was just like, wow, so-and-so, and they were like, oh, yeah, and I was like, cool. Like, and these are just people that, it's like, I could very well just say his name right now, but it's like, I'm not going to, because it's not.
Isn't
I
you
don't
can tell
know.
me off, Mike?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Veronica Mars, like, that was the trauma that she had? I might be thinking of a different show where the main character was raped and it was filmed and it was spread around.
Yeah, there is a show where that does happen, but I can't
I
think.
forget
It
what
might
it
be
was.
Veronica Mars.
I know. I mean, she was raped. That's like
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's
inciting
like the
incident.
whole, yeah.
Yeah, but there's some show, I forget what it was, but yeah, like the main character was raped. It was filmed. She was drunk, so then they have or drunk or like
Yeah.
high or something. But like then there's a whole conversation of like, well, yeah, he shouldn't have spread that around, but I mean,
But you shouldn't have put it on video, yeah.
Yeah, or like you were telling him, you were encouraging it. It was like,
Right.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
but like it's an older show, so it's not even like it was.
Right.
Anyway.
No, yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, that's the thing, is that like there were so many growing up, dude, if you survive your teenage years, like, oh my God, like when I think back to just like because your brain, it is such a treacherous time.
Yeah.
Like it is scary, because you can make decisions that change the rest of your life, that really could, like, that's what the scary thing is with raising a teenager. You just don't know, like, you can be doing everything right as a parent, and that's part of the other thing too, is that, like, yeah, bad parenting, it's kind of a gamble. You can turn out with a good kid. It just depends on, the luck of the draw, pretty much. And like,
You never know.
All the other
You
elements.
never know.
All the
Because
other
there's
elements.
environmental factors that you can't even control.
Right.
You know?
Or you can do
not even
everything-
environmental, psychological factors. Or who knows?
Right. But you can also be a really good parent, and
Yeah.
your kid just makes choices that have nothing
Yeah.
to do with anything that you could have done.
How many mass shootings have there been where
Right.
the people are like, I had no idea. The guy
Right.
seemed totally normal.
Right. And yeah, so it's like
He came from a suburban household, nice parents, totally fine.
right.
And then he shot all these people.
So it's like I feel like right now kids are I think back to like the movies that I watched, that like, and just like the stories that were told, that I was like, oh, like that's and I know there are kids out there. I can't remember what director it was that I was reading an article or an interview. It might have been I don't think it was Paul Thomas Anderson, but it was some really good director that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how, like, they feel like it's sad, but they feel like the future of like film and just filmmakers in general is very bleak, because they just don't see a whole lot of, like, they were saying they do like they teach seminars, and they have like groups of like film study, and like there's always going to be the interested filmmakers out there, but as far as just like the numbers of them, and like just the it's not like it sort of grew. It's more like it has shrunk as time has gone on, because the medium of just like media, what has taken over is
Right.
is the short TikTok. And
But here's the thing, Reagan. You could argue the exact opposite. For so long there were so many people in it.
Yeah.
That if there's less people,
Yeah.
what I see that as is there's less competition.
Right. I think that his worry was just that the generation after this
Sure.
is not going to carry it on the
Right.
way that we want them to.
Film will become an artisanal art.
Right.
It'll be more niche.
Right. And I think, but I think that it's just like with everything else, is just that things evolve. and take on a new you know, sort of perspective based on who is, you know, I think, you know, like the Academy Awards and all of this stuff that we've always looked to as sort of, and I think awards will always be a part of it. I think, you know, it's kind of like, what else do you really have to measure as far as, you know, art goes? There really are no other, there's not like an Olympics for filmmakers or anything like that, so it's not like, you know, you really get to get your recognition and your acknowledgement, and
especially the arty stuff too, like that's the one thing that the award shows are good for, is recognizing the more artistic crafty stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff that people don't normally think about. If we didn't have those, then those people would really have nothing, you know, to like aspire to, as far as like, you know, that sort of thing goes. But, you know, it's like, I feel like what we're doing with this is, and just my obviously I don't think our movie is going to change the world, but I do think that,
could do.
I do think that, you know, when I was a kid, there were the movies that I watched where I was just like, oh, this hit me different, and this is why. And, you know, I was so immersed in watching movies and TV, and then moving here, I had so many friends. It was the industry that I was in, so I was more in tune to, like, you know, why it was, like, I knew what it was about the movies that, like, made me feel certain, you know, things. And I think that I think it's good to want to put, like, character arcs in places for, you know, I think those are the little things about storytelling that makes a story interesting. I'm so grateful that you are watching this, because I know there's not a lot of people watching this as of now. But we hope to change that. At least eventually. I'm rambling. But this is a podcast, or, I mean, we've turned our writing sessions, my co-writer Cameron Smith and I have turned our writing sessions of this awesome story that we're telling here. We've turned our writing sessions into podcast episodes, and that's what you're here to see. So thank you so much for watching. If you are into what you hear, you know, we're sort of trying to be as transparent as possible with this whole process. This is, you know, not so much just about the finished product, but more so like this isn't really about the finished product as a whole. It's about the process of it, and taking you all on this journey with us through the process. So please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, so you can stay on top of it, stay updated on everything that we've got going on here with this story. The story is it's very suspenseful, very dramatic, but at the same time, I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, hold on. Or not, or that actually makes the story have an impact.
Well, with film especially, and this is why I'm so precious about it, is that you know, with a painting, with music, you're sitting in front of it for a few minutes, and, you know, half an hour at most, and you're like, and that's great, and you can gain a lot from it. But with a film, it's 90 minutes or more, and it's like, if you're not saying something with it, like, if you're not, you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone here, because, like, you could there's a lot here.
Yeah,
that
somebody could have done a lot more with their time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only other thing that I wanted to work on with you is I moved some things around.
Uh-huh.
But if you want to head over to page 82, just before it's scene 65.
Okay.
It's just before. I need to give the police chief a name. But it's the scene. So we have the scene where police chief is like, "Hey, you're fired," and she's like, "No, I don't wanna," and he's like, "Well, too bad." I want something. Okay, so I moved some things around, and I was gonna wait till you. Okay, so I moved some things around, so now the Sherry thing happens before the 6 months later stuff. I have it so that you'll feel it when you read it. It ratchets everything up a lot better. So I have it so the scene where so there's two scenes, right, where Angela, Deb, Sherry, and insert person are having a conversation in her house about what to do going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that, and the scene just before Deb gets fired is the scene where Deb, Angela, Sherry, and the cop are
I'm looking
talking.
at that one right now.
So I changed it to Nash because he's an established cop, and I thought it would be kind of nice if the person taking over the job, Deb's job, taking over the case is someone that's been established as kind of a creep already.
Right.
That we already know. But I'm thinking, the more I think about it, the more I would rather, because it's kind of a duplicate scene, because we have the scene later with the Greenwood, where it's essentially the same thing is happening. So it would be nice if I could figure out a scene where Deb gets she's investigating something related to the case, and while she's there, she realizes she's been kicked off the case. Like, it's Nash showing up and like, "What are you doing here?" And then she goes into the conversation with the police chief.
Okay.
But also, it's been a minute since there's been a moment of tension or action or like something spooky. So it would be nice if there was also that. So my question would be, what could she be investigating that is one spooky, that's filled with tension, and maybe it is a conversation where she's talking to a perp, or maybe it's just a location that she has to visit. And two, that's about it. And Nash shows up and is like, "Hey, what do you? This is, and or maybe it's Deb shows up to the case. Nash is already there, and there's an error there. She's like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
You can't tell if he's investigating or maybe trying to cover something up.
Right.
Like maybe she's on to something that she is pretty sure nobody else knows of. So how did Nash get the clue that he should be here if she's the first one like showing up to the crime scene? How is he already also here? But like, what could that be? I don't know.
Maybe.
Is it? Did you?
No, go ahead. You were saying.
I was gonna say maybe it's something like. So there's the abortion clinic that got burned down a few years ago,
right?
Where Mark and his wife had the abortion, and it got burned down. I don't know, years prior. And I have it to where Angela is like, "Yeah, check that location out," because that's one of the locations on the map, right? Those numbers, that address. And she's like, "That's a blank. It's just a concrete slab, so that's nothing." I thought it might be kind of spooky if she's like, "Okay, because happens after she's talked to Mark about that location.
Uh-huh.
She's talked to anyway. So like maybe she goes to that spot just to check it out. You know, like Mark told me about it, so like maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
So it's spooky, it's burned down, it's not a slab. I could
Right.
change the other dialogue so that it's not a concrete slab,
Uh-huh.
it's actually like bones of, a building.
Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason it just hasn't been cleaned up. That
Yeah.
happens. And maybe there's like, there's some tension there. I don't know. That was just my idea. Like, it's a crime scene that she's investigating.
Right.
So we have the tension, and then he's already there doing something. And, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it could be, though. But it could also be... I mean, I remember we had a conversation where it's like she's starting to get paranoid, and she's starting to feel that people are...
Around
like
her,
men are
yeah.
following or around her. So it could also be that. Like, why is she feeling a scene where the paranoia is really starting to come around and follow her?
Okay.
Like she doesn't feel safe going to her car, like the conversation we had. Like
right.
But not necessarily that, but like she's feeling it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm trying to think, if she went to the burned down abortion clinic, what would she be hoping to gain by going there?
Yeah. Because she already knows, okay, this is the address to this that's on the back of the map. So she has the connection there. So, yeah, maybe there is something in the ruins of the place that would give her a clue to something else. Or she has a sense that there might be something that would give her information at that location. But I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I kind of also want to steer away from making abortion clinics creepy in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah, that's really smart.
I would say that it would be maybe like, okay, maybe there was just like a, I had a thought that like maybe there's been like some sort of tip, like, in like outskirts of the town, like in somewhere like outside of, there's been like someone who said like, oh, I think I saw that girl, she came into this gas station, and so she goes there to like follow up on this person who says, I think I saw the girl.
Yeah, she gets a tip or something.
But while she's walking up to the gas station, like she's parked her car, she's walking up to the gas station to go talk to this guy, and this Nash is already coming out of there saying goodbye to the guy that she was going to interview. And she's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, no, what are you doing here? I already talked to them. This is nothing. It wasn't the girl. Total, like, just a chance, like, whatever. But maybe there's, like, a weird, like, sense about it. Like, how did he, like there, like there's some sort of like weird sense of like, how did he know about this?
How did he know about the tip?
Yeah.
Like it could be one of the... Okay, so I don't know if it was in the last draft that you read, but we discussed, and it's in this new draft.
Yeah.
We discussed adding the character, the girlfriend of the misogynist.
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
The guy that's guilty of it all.
Uh-huh.
So she's in here, and I have it to where, so she's peppered throughout.
Okay.
Her scene that is closest to this is she's okay. So the other case that's going on the police department is focused on is there's all these people stealing catalytic converters because crackheads do that and
Yep.
they hawk them for money or whatever.
Yeah.
So what I have is that person, that woman, her name's Gloria, the girlfriend character. When they're at the junkyard where Mark is like, yeah, Joanne or whatever his wife's name is, and I had the abortion, that's what happened. They're already at a junkyard, and they round the corner, and then there's Gloria trying to steal a catalytic converter, and then she's like, then there's an altercation, she's like, she kind of name drops the missing girls. And she's like, nobody knows that these girls are missing. How do you... And then she's like, I ain't saying nothing. That kind of thing. I could amend that, or just add on to it, to where she says something that gives her a clue to go to this location, so that when Nash gets there, it's like, I only know about this clue because this one person said it directly to me.
Right.
So how do you even know that this is a clue? So that could be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but...
Yeah. Yeah, it could just be like,
Well, because Gloria has intel, because she's, dating the guy.
Right.
So she might not know everything, but she knows enough. But she hates cops, and she's probably on drugs, and she's all out of it.
Right.
So she's not telling them, but she could be in the heat of the moment let something slip about one of the girls that would lead her to this location, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So we have three girls. We have Sherry. We have what is her name? It's Angela's daughter.
I feel like there should be a boyfriend of one of the missing girl. Like there should be like if they're these like three pretty like girls, wouldn't they have like a boyfriend or at least someone that they were on and off with or something? Like
that could be interesting.
Like if there was someone that like maybe that Gloria character kind of blurts out or something, and Deb's like, wait, who's Michael or whatever the name is, who's that guy, and then she's like, oh well, that's just I only know that's her boyfriend or that's her boy toy or guy that she like whatever. I don't know. And then maybe that I'm like, well, why hasn't anyone talked to the boyfriend? That's who everybody should be talking. That's like the first person that everybody should go to.
It could be something like, because she's already mad that she talks about this, about Gloria does, about you cops don't pay any attention to us poor people. Like, and that's a running thing throughout the script. So, and it's already established that these girls come from all walks of life. You know, it's just a small town, so they became friends, and that was literally it was circumstantial. That's why they're friends.
Right.
So it could be okay. So we have Sherry. She gets dumped, and she's already dumped by this point. And she's not saying anything. We have Angela's daughter. I forget her name, and then we have this third character, this other third woman that isn't really represented yet.
Okay.
So it could be something to do with her.
Yeah, she could have we could make her have like a boyfriend or something.
Well, yeah, and the mother that she represents, because Sherry is the creepy, what's his name, guy.
Yeah, the one that's like, that's not my daughter.
Yeah, and Angela is obviously the mom of the one. So the third daughter, we meet her mom, and it's like a upper middle class, like well-to-do. You know, the dad's out of town on business or whatever. So it could be that Gloria's mad that this lady cop's investigating the doing all she can to check out this rich girl's
Yeah.
life, but when it comes to me, we want to arrest me.
Right.
So in the heat of the moment, she could say something like, I don't know specifically what, but referring to the fact that this third girl, I forget her name, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I
but
forget.
This third girl is a rich girl, and of course you're paying attention to her, and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And somewhere in there is the location, is a clue to the location that would give something. But yeah, like either like a boyfriend or like a, something. You guys all only look out for yourselves or something along those lines.
Yeah. But like when she gets there to the place, Nash is already.
I gotta take it care of. Don't worry your little heart out or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, what? How do you even know about this? Like, we got the best on this case. Oh, you're not on this case. You shouldn't even be. Maybe he's automatically defensive, and that's what puts her on guard. He's like, what are you doing here? Like,
right.
You're not even on this case no more.
Right. Yeah, it should be something like pretty heavily confrontational enough for her to,
right,
get pissed, like, be like, what the fuck?
She can't even get a word in edgewise, and he's defensive. And he's defensive because he knows that, that he's part of the cover up, whatever that is.
Right.
But I don't know what that is, and maybe that's something we think on, but, like, that's pretty solid, I think. I think that's a pretty solid direction.
I mean, works for me. I think,
I do want there to be... I want this to be a moment of tension, like crime thriller, spook tension.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is yet, but... and I want her to feel, if we can have her really start to feel paranoid, that things are closing in on Deb, or around her.
Maybe Gloria says something to Deb that's kind of threatening in a way, like, like my neighbor had something scary happen to him recently. There's a long story, but like, another one of our neighbors threatened him and said, like, I just want you to know that people are watching you. I'm watching you, and so are other people, too. And maybe Gloria says something to Deb, like, tells her to stop poking around and stop, like, being so nosy, maybe. And, like, because people are watching her. Or maybe she says something like, just
we take care of our own, or since you won't do it, we take care of our own, so you better
watch your back. Something about how she needs to be like looking over her shoulder or something.
Yeah.
And then maybe that to Deb, all that makes her do is want to go after whatever it is that she's supposed to be running from.
Right.
So maybe she tells her, to watch her back. And then, like, maybe it's that, maybe she has, like, because if we want to go, like, the creepy, scary horror movie route, then, Deb needs to be putting herself in a situation that we kind of are a little fearful for her in.
Definitely.
So maybe this boyfriend, maybe Gloria tells Deb that maybe she says something about how maybe one of the boyfriends of the girls, maybe one of them like has it out for Deb because he's pissed off that she's not doing more. They're not doing more to find his girlfriend or whatever. or there's like somebody who's like out for, there's a reason, someone who's related to one of the girls wants to hurt Deb because they think maybe that she's implying that they think Deb's in on it, like Deb's part of the conspiracy. Maybe she implies that, like, you know, people are looking at you funny too. People are, you know, wondering why you haven't done this and this and this.
Right.
And then maybe she gets herself in that situation, and there's a person who it's like in a situation at a place or with a person that we know is not like how we had the men's club as kind of like the Elks Lodge or whatever, as kind of a scary place for Deb. But like if we had something else along those lines.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, she could, almost as if she was happening upon a crime scene, and you know,
Right.
at the very end, she goes into the barn and she actually finds the men's rights activist memorabilia and
Right,
you know, all
right.
this kind of stuff. It's got that vibe of
Right.
the misogyny, and you know, she feels unsafe there, and
Right.
she should. This isn't that like explicit, but it's still equally as like sketchy
Right.
feeling. And she definitely feels paranoid stepping into this place, and then she finds one of her cop friends there. Like, that's suspicious.
Ooh, okay. Maybe it is. So there's the Elks Lodge. There's like the actual, like, this is where the men hang out. But then there could be like a bar or somewhere like that is where they do all their like unofficial meetups, like where they know the guy who. Like,
Well, we do have what is it?
Oh, yeah, we have
Nibbles
that.
and Bits, Nibbles and Tits, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
But
So
maybe
it
this
could
is yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe this is a place though that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a place that it's more incognito. Like, it's not really like a place where you would think a bunch of men would meet up and hang out.
Right.
Like, it's more like your local diner or like
Right.
somewhere that, but they can have the woman, they can tell the place to shut the place down, and they'll lock
Right.
the doors or whatever and let them have the place to themselves for like whatever, you know, like it's one of those kinds of places. Like, it's not like it's a place where they can be a little more under the radar.
It could be okay. I don't know what the location is yet.
Yeah.
You're right. You're in the right area, but
Yeah.
it could be. She goes to this place. There's a bunch of So the other night, and I filmed it, but the other night, for whatever reason, I was walking my dog. Well, I know why I was walking my dog, but for whatever reason, while I was walking my dog, there was a it looked like a party that was happening at one of these, like in the neighborhood house, but the streets were just lined with cars.
Yeah.
And this is not like it's not like a location where people go to party. So it
Right.
was really, really random.
Right.
And I was thinking about the movie, and I was like, oh, it's kind of spooky that suddenly there's all these people just meeting
Yeah,
kind of in secret at like a nice little suburban house.
Right.
Like-
It's like someone's
So-
parents were away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
someone,
it might
you
have
know.
been. I don't know.
But yeah.
But it could be something similar to that. Some nice, in other unassuming place, except in this context where she's pulling up to the place. There's cars everywhere, so she
Right.
knows something's going on.
Yeah.
Um.
I was
And-
thinking maybe she walks in. You know how one of those they used like the videos of like that asshole, that Richard Spencer or whatever his name was, you know, where they had the men's meetings where he's literally like doing like the like Heil and shit like that.
Sure.
And but they're happening in like churches and like places like that. So like, you know, maybe it might be kind of a creepy, cool thing, like where she walks in on, like she literally walks in on.
So here's exactly this is
Yeah.
exactly what I was gonna say. She walks in. There's all these cars. She's expecting to have to interact with, like, I don't know, do some sort of investigative work.
Mm-hmm.
She walks in, maybe even the door is a little ajar. There's nobody inside, even though there's all these cars
Right.
out front.
Right.
So she's walking around, she's creeping around, maybe there's some memorabilia there that is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, whatever. She's walking around, and then there's a room in the back that she can tell that's where all the action is. That's where all the people are. And she's like, okay, this is really creepy.
Uh-huh.
What are they all doing in that room?
Yeah, that's where we could have, like, the creep factor of, like, okay, like, she, we figure she's going to open the door. It might be, we don't have anything at a church yet, do we?
No.
Okay.
Just the lodge. Yeah.
It might be kind of interesting if this is
we have, she goes to meet it's Scott now, who's the pastor.
Right.
He's asking for a renewed permit. So we've already established that as a location, actually.
Okay.
So it could be now she's actually in the belly of the church. That was just like an office thing. We've already established it as a location. So that could work.
Okay. So maybe she gets some sort of tip, whatever, that this church, that whoever she needs to talk to is at the church. And
it's like, it's not Sunday, it's late at night that she goes. There shouldn't be
like
anybody there.
Right. It's like a Wednesday, like a Thursday night or something, like, because church services usually happen on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So it could be like on a random, like, Thursday night when there really shouldn't be anything.
She's expecting to go talk to Scott to be like, oh, hey, do you know anything about this?
Yeah.
She gets there and there's tons of cars there.
Yeah, maybe she says something like,
a little more casual.
Right, and she's probably thinking like, oh, it must be some sort of, like, some kind of event. Like, they're having some sort of,
Maybe she goes to Scott's office first and there's something sitting on his desk that is suspicious. So she like, her ears perk up. Mm-hmm. And then there's nobody around. And she starts hearing something going off in the distance,
Yeah.
And believe me, I used to film for a religious cult.
Oh.
Used to make music videos, and I'll send them to you. They're creepy.
I would love that.
But they would do all these, just prayer sessions. But if you're like down the hall, listening
hearing
to
them,
it sounds so creepy.
Yeah.
Like with the reverb and they're all chanting and doing all this stuff. And it's totally legit. It didn't feel legit to me as a non-religious person, but to them, it's.
No, it's 100%. That's
But that could be interesting, and then maybe even she gets up to wherever they're having their meeting, and the door's cracked a little bit, so she can kind of see in there.
Yeah.
And she can see like they're all like they got their hands up or they're doing something, and then suddenly, boom, Nash comes out of the room.
Right. Yeah, he comes to like
from around the corner or something, and it's like, we got it.
It could be your typical spooky thing where she's like looking at it, and then all of a sudden he comes up behind her and is like, what are you doing here? That sort of like thing where he comes in just at the nick of time, right before she was about to walk into the men's,
whatever it is.
Yeah. Have you seen The Red Pill? Have you seen that documentary? It's from 2016.
Mm-mm.
Oh man, it's on Netflix. I think it might not be on Netflix anymore, but it's literally the genre is documentary/horror.
Okay.
And it is it's about the men's rights movement that propelled Trump to where he is.
Sometimes I'll see documentaries come across like on HBO or whatever like that, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Oh, it's from 2016 or 2010.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Things have changed so much since then. Yeah.
I'm like, why should I even watch it? Because it gets, I know it gets worse than this. But yeah, no, that is interesting.
It's interesting. It's interesting the way they frame it because they do put out a lot of like the data on at the time, of course, like suicide rates for men and like all like they put up a really good case as for like why there should be a men's rights movement,
right?
But it's not in the like all the things that they were saying are true. Like like men have a much higher rate of suicide than women, men have a much, like, there are all these like things, but it's, it is because of
we don't have support systems. We don't have this.
and
we
they
don't have,
and
yeah.
they and they put all that in the documentary, and it's all like, okay, that's all great and everything, but it's the side of it where men are just complaining that they're the victims in this
Right,
world
for sure.
that is, so anti-man, when really
She could be overhearing some of that kind of
but
dialogue.
it's literally the patriarchy. It's the same, like, the patriarchy is, which is what Barbie and all that was about, is
Right.
that it is the patriarchy that also keeps men down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you are, like, the men are creating their own hell that they live in,
Mm-hmm.
because the standards that they're trying to uphold themselves to don't really exist. And the macho, manly man that they all want to be doesn't actually, it's not real.
I think that would work because we have two situations where Deb is like investigating,
Right.
some spooky place.
Yeah.
One of them is the bar where they're plotting. The
Right.
other one is the Elks Lodge where they're also plotting. It's the same mission.
Yeah.
This could be where it's just this men. They're discussing the issues.
And there are church men's group, like, there are men's groups in churches. So this could be a very patriarchal, horrible, disgusting group disguising themselves as these, like, because my dad and my brother-in-law used to go to these men's groups, but they were more so as like sort of like support groups, that that's how they sort of framed it, so this could be something that's sort of like supposed to be like something like that, like a men's support group,
it just devolves or evolves for them,
right, into just like a whole complaint about women and all the ways women destroy our lives. And
she could be like, am I walking into a fight club? What is this?
I just realized I need to go get Kylie from school.
That's fine. I think we did it.
I think so. Yeah. So I think, yeah. I think that's good, because also the other thing that I really symbolically, I think, which is really good that we stumbled upon here, is like, I do, like, religion is one of the huge ways that patriarchy implements, takes hold of,
for sure,
society.
and it's very southern,
right?
If we're playing into the whole
small
the
town
southern culture, that's all part of it. It's even established earlier in the script because it's based on the town that I live in now.
Right.
The police station is across the street from City Hall, which is right next door to a church, which is right next door to the family health practice thing.
Right.
So
so
that
it's
totally
all
makes
So the church definitely. It's good that we put that in there, because I think it needs to be a little more predominantly shown that the church is a great way for these men to hide behind their their
clubs,
their
religion, their culture,
because that's part of, like, I specifically remember my dad coming home once from, like, church, or it might have been a group meetup or something, or just a regular service, but my parents weren't big in church. Like, my dad being a preacher at some point in his life, and he went to school to be a preacher, like, and I grew up very evangelical, very Christian, but, like, going to church every Sunday was not a thing for the most part of my life. But my dad would go to church. My dad was, like, pretty big on it at certain times of his life. But I specifically remember him coming home one time and us all having him talking about how the sermon that day was all about the women being subservient to the man.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, see, that is just why I cannot, that is just so wrong. Like, do you even hear how wrong that sounds? And then we had this whole big discussion about what that really meant, and what the Bible says about men and women and men ruling the house, all, And so, and my dad that's not his, I mean, he's not He's not your typical patriarchal man.
Right.
Like, that's not
Sure.
how he has ever operated. But he was still arguing that
It's
that's
in the Bible.
Yeah. You know, he was making jokes that that's not how it works in this house, you know, joking about how my mom, you know, is sort of the boss of the house.
Right.
But it's still like that is something that they have ingrained in them, and that is something that is part of that is part of the religion. Is that you as a woman support your husband.
For sure.
And they try to frame it these days, you know, in a very empowering way for women. You know, it's like, and a lot of women in that category will say, "Well, don't you want that life? I mean, don't you want to be taken care of? Like, isn't that like, don't you want to like literally all you have to do is take care of your home? It's all." Your family, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Don't you want that? And some people do, and that's great. And more power to them if that's the thing, is that it's the same as pro-choice stuff. It's like, if that's your choice, if that is what you want to do and that is what you and your husband have decided is the best way for you guys to live, then I have no issue with you doing that. But it's just women being told that that's all they could ever, that's the only thing that you could ever be or ever do.
Yeah.
Just like a man, if you want to stay home and be the stay-at-home guy and do the dishes and the laundry and all that stuff and take care of your kids, then do it. More power, you know, it's like that works for some people. And there's a million ways to live. And I just think that, you know, when it all comes down to it, it is just a matter of everybody being able to do whatever they want. But okay, so
go pick up that troublemaker.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do that. And
great work. This was a long one.
This was a long one.
This was a really nice one, though. I think
it was. It was. I'm sure there's a lot of things in here that I'll be like, oh my god, if I ever heard myself say that, I sound like the biggest idiot. But
well, good thing you don't listen back to it, so you'll never have that experience.
I couldn't if I wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Reagan.
Thank you. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of me and Cameron writing a movie. Thank you so much for being here and watching and listening, doing both of those things. It is so awesome of you to be doing, because I know there's not a lot of you yet. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing.